radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well. Welcome. This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Monday, December 19th, 354 days into the new year, just 12 days left. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that fun stuff. We had our third birthday party over the weekend. And with this show tonight, we now enter our fourth season. Holy crap. Where did the time go? And with that, on this very special broadcast tonight and heading into the Christmas weekend and then into the new year, tonight we welcome back David Wilcock for his annual, which has become that with us here at Fade to Black, his 2016 wrap-up. And we're going to discuss his two year-end reports that were just posted, Endgame and Endgame 2. Tomorrow night, John Burroughs is going to be with us, and Rendlesham Revisited. We've got some fresh stuff on Rendlesham, so we're going to talk about that. We haven't had John on the show in a while. I think last time he was on with us was way back when we were in Roswell for the Roswell Festival, and we broadcasted from Roswell, New Mexico. So John will be back with us tomorrow night. And then Wednesday night, Micah Hanks is here. Micah will be, we're calling Micah the, I forget how we called it, the skeptical, the skeptical believer, I think is, I can't remember, but that's exactly what Micah is. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom. It's open lines all night long. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow David at David_Wilcock. He's got the little blue check mark, the verified check on Twitter. You can follow David, Facebook and YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black, J Church Radio, Jimmy Church Radio, whatever. Just go follow, like, and subscribe. You can email throughout the show tonight. I'll get to as many of them as I can. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, on Twitter, hashtag F2B is the sandbox. That's what you want to do. We will be burning through a couple of thousand tweets tonight, I'm sure. And follow all of that and the conversation at hashtag F2B. Hashtag F2BQ is Fade to Black questions. Any questions for myself, any comments, any questions for David tonight, just post it over at hashtag F2BQ. I keep Twitter live all night long. Everything is interactive. Of course, we have the chat rooms over at KGRA and Spreaker, and you can go hang out there too if 140 characters is not your style. All right. Again, it's that time of year. Happy holidays. You know, that PC term, Happy Holidays, has become like the norm, right? But I'm old school. Merry friggin' Christmas. All right? It is the season. I love this time of year. And Charlie Brown Christmas, man, I'm all in. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I'm all in, man. I am all in. Fondest memories. You know, it's kind of strange, isn't it? How Christmas was such a big time, but Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. I want to back up from that. I just got to say, Halloween, man. Okay. All right. Happy holidays from all of us here at Fade to Black. Check out all of our sponsors for great gift-giving ideas. Life Change Tea, getthetea.com. All of the banners for all of our sponsors are over on the website. All of the promo codes are there that you need to use. Life Change Tea, the promo code is Jimmy, either over the phone or online. Just go to the specials page. Great gift-giving ideas. Of course, River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Now, you know what's crazy? I know David is listening to the show right now, right? So he's listening. I don't think David knows that we have our own coffee, right? Hey, David, we got to get you drinking some Fade to Black blend. F2B blend is the promo code, 15% off of your order. I was just looking through Twitter right before the show and looking at a couple of the posts of people that are getting their orders in on Fade to Black blend. I got to tell you, it's cold here in Los Angeles right now. Cold. And there's nothing better than Fade to Black blend. I'm going to hit mine right now. You know what I did? I broke the cardinal rule right before the show. We broke out some vanilla ice cream, and I put a little dollop in my coffee. All right. Studio Dome, their Fade or Not special. TWS, true wireless stereo technology, 2 USB B2 speakers in a hard shell case, a high-fidelity stereo Bluetooth system for $129. Take your Van Halen on the go. That's exactly what it is. 60% off the normal price of $399. That's a great gift-giving idea. Look at that picture of River Moon Coffee. That's going to get a retweet. That's what I'm talking about. Zipa, stop snoring today. Right now, get your Zipa, ZYPPAH.com. It's that simple. I did, so should you. All right, the first big conference of the season is coming up, the Conscious Life Expo, February 10th through the 13th at the LAX Hilton. Come hang out with Wilcock, Corey Good, Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, David Hatcher-Childress, George Norrie, Mike Barra, Nassim Haramein, Lori McDonald, Jason Martell, Sean Stone, William Henry, Danny Sheehan, Whitley, Daniel Brinkley, Laura Eisenhower, Del Bigtree is going to be there. Wow. Lisa Garr. We're going to be broadcasting live from the Plaza Ballroom like we do every year there. And come hang out with us. We'll have 12, 13, 14 guests through the show, and that includes David Wilcock. Last year we had Corey Good. Remember that? It was pretty cool. All right, so come and hang out with us. And then on Saturday, I'll be hosting the Ancient Aliens panel. George Norrie is doing a big award ceremony, so we'll be over there for that, too, as well. That'll be on Saturday. Come and hang out with all of us. We'll speak with David about that shortly when he joins the show here in a few minutes. And I think he will, just like he did last year, I'm sure he is speaking on Friday and maybe Saturday, too, as well. So we'll find out when he joins us. With that, let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday, too. Today, Jake Gyllenhaal is 36, star of one of my favorite movies, Donnie Darko. Chris Angel, Mind Freak, today is 49. And Mike Lookingland today is 56. Mike Lookingland was Bobby friggin' Brady. Remember the Brady Bunch? Our dead guy's birthday today is the one and only Maurice White, 1941 to 2016. Of course, the Grammy Award-winning co-founder and frontman of Earth, Wind, and Fire. He was nominated for a total of 20 Grammys, and he won 7. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame as a member of Earth, Wind, and Fire, and was also inducted individually into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Happy birthday to Maurice White. On this day in history, 1998, big one. 1998, President Clinton was impeached. Yeah, man, on this day in 1998. Fate or fact. In order to combat obesity, France has banned free refills at fast food restaurants, and they've done this since 2015. That is a fate or fact. All right. Now, you know, I put some thoughts together, you know, knowing that David was going to be on the show tonight, Secret Space Program and Corey and everything that we have covered with David and Corey over the last few years on this program. Back in 1968, 3 Apollo 8 astronauts circled the moon on Christmas Eve and returned home, okay, where they were greeted with a ticker tape parade and honored on the cover of Time. Far out of sight, though, from those very public celebrations, however, another group of astronauts was training, and unlike the Apollo program, these dudes were part of a clandestine military operation that had less to do with peaceful exploration of the heavens, my friends, and much more to do with wreaking havoc. Oh, yes. One of those secret astronauts was retired Vice Admiral Richard Truly, who later headed NASA. And I'm quoting from Richard directly. You just couldn't talk or tell anybody about it. That's right. He said that back in 2007. He said nobody. The details of the program called the Man Orbiting Laboratory, the MOL, and run by the Air Force and the Intelligence Community's National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO, they were revealed last year when the NRO partly declassified more than 800 files and photos. The project, which was in place from 1963 to 1969, aimed to spy on and thwart the Soviet Union in space. And according to the declassified documents, one objective was to explore the feasibility of attacking Moscow satellites by knocking them out of orbit or firing projectiles at them. The program also included an elaborate plan to capture a Russian spacecraft while it was in orbit, swaddle it in a heat shield, wrap it up, and send it back to Earth for inspection. Yes, this was really going on, and this is just a part of the story. Yet, despite Washington's best efforts to keep these experiments under wraps, its main adversary, the Soviet Union, discovered the operation. In fact, Moscow equipped its secret space manned station, the ALMAZ, A-L-M-A-Z, listen to me, with a rapid-fire cannon. Yes, a Gatling gun. And this is according to their chief designer, Vladimir Palachenko. If a U.S. spacecraft attempted to inspect or even attack the ALMAZ, we could destroy it, he's quoted as saying. And he said this to PBS in 2007. He also said that in 1975, cosmonauts test-fired the cannon in space, making the Soviet Union the first nation to weaponize an orbiting spacecraft. I'm not making this up. You need to listen to me. This is what's going on behind the scenes. This is the stuff that nobody talks about. And if this, and I'm going to continue with this, but if this is going on, it's the other stuff. When somebody says to me, Jimmy, how can they keep this secret? I'm giving you a gem right now. Go and research everything that I'm speaking about. Now, for budgetary reasons, Washington's MOL officially never got off the ground. Not unofficially. We don't know. Many of the astronauts transferred to NASA's space shuttle program, but specifically to the clandestine side operated by the Air Force and the NRO. Listen to me. Between 1982 and 1992, it conducted 11 shuttle missions that still to this day remain top secret. Given what operations were underway by the Air Force, it's clear that foreign satellite destruction was a high priority. Now, and that's part of the disguise, right? What is it? What is it that they need to defend themselves from? Obviously, take out a satellite, right? That's the story that they're running with. But why else do you need to weaponize space? Always ask yourself that question. What is it that they are concerned with? Certainly, we've talked to David and Corey about this very subject, and people come to me and they go, dude, seriously. And then I give you this. In 1985, for instance, an Air Force pilot flying an F-15 fighter jet, he fired a missile at a failing U.S. satellite in low Earth orbit. Again, this is the official version of the story. Until that day, no other country had annihilated a spacecraft with a weapon, at least officially. Right? This is going on right now. It would take 22 years before another power emulated that move. In 2007, Beijing launched a missile that demolished a Chinese weather satellite. Again, that's the official story. What are they shooting at? They're telling us it's a Chinese weather satellite. Not to be outdone, Washington blasted another of its, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes right now in the dark studio, air quotes. Washington shot down a malfunctioning satellite, and then they turned that into satellites. They kept shooting. Back then, some might have argued that the space race had resumed, right? Again, on the official side. However, the NRO documents make it clear that the race never lapsed. Oh, no. They reveal that from its onset, the space age consisted of two very distinct parts. The one I'm talking about, in the spotlight, the one that everybody covered, run by NASA to explore the universe, right? And another that was in the dark, in the black, off record, spending like you have no idea, run by the Pentagon, the military, to arm the universe. Today, NASA exists without a shuttle. It pays Russia for its rides, and it wrestles with budget problems. Yet Washington continues right now to expand its secret space program. They're sending planes into orbit all the time and developing satellites that have potentially offensive capabilities. We know this. This is fact. In 2001, a commission recommended that Washington's vigorous pursuit of the capabilities to ensure that the president will have the option to deploy weapons in space. A year later, President George W. withdrew from the anti-ballistic missile treaty with Russia. Now, why did he do that? In 2004, the Secretary of the Air Force issued a document that codified its space warfare policies and called for space superiority, end quote, which was defined as, by the way, freedom to attack as well as freedom from attack in space, my friends. Listen to what I say. While President Barack Obama vowed at the start of his first term not to militarize space, he did the opposite when he approved the launch of a number of military spacecraft that could double as both intelligence collectors and weapon systems. As recently as June, General John E. Hyten, commander of the Air Force Space Command, listen to me, issued a white paper that reiterated the push for a force, I'm quoting here in the paper, a force capable of achieving space superiority. Coincidentally, circling above the Earth at that time was the X-37B, of which the Air Force officially has 2. The first launch, back in 2010, the unmanned plane is capable, listen to this. I talk about this all the time, but you just need to listen. It can stay in space for 2 years at a time. Although the Air Force refuses to disclose the X-37B's activities, its design is very similar in size and shape of the X-20 Dinosaur. You remember that, one of the coolest planes ever, from the 1960s, which was crafted to be manned by a single pilot and to launch a nuclear weapon from space. Washington's discreetness now has some China, if you think about this in particular, wondering whether the X-20 has come full circle in the X-37B. The X-37B for 2 years, and on the official side, that's what we know. It's up there for 2 years. No issues, no problems. They haven't reported anything going on, what it's doing. You know, it's running perfectly, is my point. 2 years. What 2-year military mission is going on? I'm just asking. What is it? In 1979, there was the Moon Agreement. In 1979, the Moon Agreement banned the militarization of the moon and other celestial bodies, but it has not been ratified by the United States. Oh, no. Or Russia, or China, or any other nation. In 2008, China and Russia proposed an agreement to ban such arms. The United Nations General Assembly finally adopted a version of their proposal last December. But check this out. The United States opposed it. When somebody comes up to me and says, Jimmy, David Wilcock, Corey Good, Secret Space Program, this kind of stuff, it is impossible. You cannot keep this stuff. See, we would never do. No, it's not going on. Trust me when I say it is. And what official stuff that you can find out there, and it's out there. It clearly states we are weaponizing space. We are arming ourselves. I don't know what's going on the moon, Corey does. I don't know what's going on Mars, Corey does, and others do. But there is something there, and it is an active program. And the spending, we don't know. We have no idea. I can tell you this. Trillions, plural, are missing. And that's the exact kind of money and funding you would need to get all of this stuff done. How can people keep it secret? How can they keep it secret? I'll just say right now, the Manhattan Project. 100,000 people involved with that. Nobody talked. Nobody. So when you sit and listen and you surf and you Google during this show and you listen to David or you listen to Corey or other guests on this show, you need to listen. One of the things that is most important to me is when you have a guest on, you listen, right? And that's good. And we know that. They're speaking. But the other side is going to the dark side and getting their information and what you can collect out of the Pentagon and from the CIA and from the NRO. What is it that they have? What is it that has been made public? You take that and you start to cross-check and you start to reference the other information that we gather on this program, and there is something sinister going on. You need to think about that. So, tonight, David Wilcock is here. We're going to do a 2016 wrap-up. We're going to discuss his 2 year-end reports, Endgame and Endgame 2. You can go over to Divine Cosmos, and I believe they're the top 2 links that you can click on right there. Everything is there. They're very comprehensive, very detailed, both presented really, really well. So we're going to do that. Also, we have other things that we need to discuss with David about 2016 and 2017, like we do every year with David. We're going to talk about what's going to happen next year and what we can expect. And it is the holidays, right? So we're not going to go totally doom and gloom. We can't do that, and we wouldn't. So there's all kinds of good stuff to talk about, too, as well. Tomorrow night, John Burroughs is going to be here. Rendlesham Revisited. Wednesday night, Micah Hanks. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom live, followed by open lines all night long. And then it's Christmas. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. You can follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio, and I'll be right back with Mr. David Wilcock. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. It's a holiday season with hope in the air. Things to look forward to and no time for despair. Health can be a challenge, and so can the mail. So Get the Tea wants to help you by giving you a sale. Buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month for free. No limit. That's buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month free. That's a savings of $35. Where? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Scroll down on the front page and find the buy 2, get 1 free ad. Click it and save. Orders over $100 get free shipping. Send the gift of life. Change tea at GetTheTea.com. We have many non-GMO organic supplements just waiting for you. This holiday season, enjoy health and Thanksgiving with GetTheTea.com. Want to call us? 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. GetTheTea.com is a proud sponsor of doing what's right. That's GetTheTea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station where the Fader Knots rock.
Hi, Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Manson. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. It's become a tradition here. Fade to Black. David Wilcock at the end of the year. Doesn't get any better than that. He is the author of the best-selling books, The Source Field Investigations and The Synchronicity Key. David is a renowned filmmaker and a researcher of ancient civilizations, consciousness, science, and new paradigms of matter and energy. As a professional lecturer, his foundation lies in scientific and spiritual information about soul growth, ascension, and, of course, the evolution of consciousness. He is the host of Cosmic Disclosure for Gaia, is featured on History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Coast to Coast AM, and, of course, right here at Fade to Black. And tonight we're going to do a wrap-up of 2016, talk about his two latest articles, Endgame, Disclosure, and the Final Defeat of the Cabal, and Endgame 2, The Antarctic Atlantis and Ancient ET Ruins. His website, of course, is divinecosmos.com. Everything is over at Fade to Black, and I would like to welcome back Mr. David Wilcock. David, good evening.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
It's going good, man. You ready for it is the season, David.
Oh, I'm feeling it big time. I'm staying at a hotel in upstate New York, and they got Christmas trees all over the place in here, and it's just amazing.
Is it white? Is it snowing?
Well, there's a little bit of snow around out here, and of course, coming out of Los Angeles, it's like, wow, what is this stuff?
You know what's funny? You left. You saw how cold it was getting out here, man.
Yeah, it was.
Today. I'm serious, man. I had to break out the winter gear, man. I really did.
Yeah, this polar vortex. When we got held up in Chicago at ORD Airport, that's I forget what it's.
O'Hare, yeah, O'Hare, yeah.
O'Hare, right? And they had a plane that was coming in from Florida that slipped off the runway completely, delayed everything. And the temperature outside was, I believe, -4 degrees.
You and I were chatting when all of that was going on. I had no idea that it was that kind of trip for you. But it's every time, especially during the holidays, man. And you go on a trip, it always turns into planes, trains, and automobiles. It just does.
Oh. I really dislike. I mean, considering that air travel is such a part of my life for doing conferences and doing Gaia out of Colorado, and holiday travel is just so much worse. And if that's the only time you ever fly, you must think flying is totally horrible, because during the holidays it is. I mean, it's insanity.
Now, before we get things started really quick, I mentioned during the opener there, Conscious Life Expo is coming up. How many times are you going to speak that weekend? That many.
Well, I have. It's a lot.
Yes.
I mean, there's 3 talks that are just me on stage for a prolonged time. One of them is with Corey Good. One of them is a lecture. One of them is a workshop. I think I have one panel as well. And you're probably going to peer pressure me live on the air to do your radio show, so I'll probably end up doing that too.
Yeah.
That's how you set me up last year. I'm expecting the same thing.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. Well, what's really fun is when you're speaking to an audience, that's one thing. But when you're there to just entertain and do the live radio, it's a totally different vibe. The pressure's off. Sure. You're just there to have fun. And so, yeah, absolutely, man, peer pressure. But we'll see you that Friday night for sure.
It's kind of an intense gig. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this yet, but I'm buddies with Steven Tyler, and I talk to him on the phone sometimes. And he's been really helpful in terms of, like, teaching me how to deal with, greater and greater levels of public exposure. But, when Steven does a gig, he's got like a backstage and there's a place he can go hide. Whereas something like Conscious Life, you have to walk through the same halls as everybody else.
That's right.
You're just out there doing it. So
that's right.
It's a whole different kind of thing.
No, that is so true. And what a lot of the attendees that go to those conferences, what they don't understand is the speakers that are there, you are exposed the entire time. So it's great for the attendees because they can look up and go, there's Wilcock or there's Nori, and people are walking around. But you are always out. You can't escape. There's no place to just go and unwind. You just can't. You just can't just sit down and take a breath and drink something and just try to disengage your brain. You can't do that. You're always on.
Yeah, and the analogy I like to make is that even if your crowd is very favorable and supportive and you have lots of beautiful women that are trying to come after you, whatever, it's like you can't just eat birthday cake, and if you eat too much birthday cake, you're going to be throwing up.
Right. But, Conscious Life, and that's the other cool part about Conscious Life is to have, 5,000 people all in one place, all focused on the good, right, of humanity.
Yeah, the really positive part about it for me is that I get to co-create a group experience. And there is something about the alchemy of being in the audience and being in the room that any type of official or bootleg video or audio cannot begin to capture.
Oh, no, not at all. No. I remember one year I walked in on you were speaking. And I walked in, I was with Rita, and we walked in, and it was packed, and it was like 120 degrees in the hotel when you were speaking.
Oh, I know.
I know you know the night that I'm talking about. And
yep.
it was steamy in there, right? And I'm looking up,
and people are dissing me on the video because I keep touching the tip of my nose. It's
you were
dude,
dripping.
I'm wiping sweat off my nose.
Dude,
that's what that is.
I looked at you,
I'm literally wiping sweat off the tip of my nose. That's
right.
why I keep touching my nose.
Right, and it was so focused and so the atmosphere. You know what I mean? It was just really cool. So now, anyway. So with that, we'll see you at Conscious Life, and that's coming up February 10th through the 13th right here at the LAX Hilton. And everybody can go get tickets and information on our website, and I'm sure David's got it up on Divine Cosmos. Now, 2016, I would like to say sayonara, right? Let's get this one.
Yeah, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Right. Let's get probably one of the craziest years in recent memory on every single level. You had the mainstream media, we had the election, we have the craziness going on around the world, and I think it left a lot of us wondering if the darkness was going to end for us, and we couldn't wait for 2017 to get here. What do you think was going on in 2016?
It's a very critical tipping point that has shifted so many things in favor of the full disclosure timeline. And that's the really positive thing to look forward to. We have had quite an unbearable amount of negativity coming at us. And there's a lot of news that seems to be so ugly and embarrassing. And the entire year was also consumed by this ridiculously contentious election. And as it got closer and closer and we realized it's Trump versus Hillary, a lot of people in the truth community are happy that Trump won, but I think for a lot of Americans who didn't necessarily spend time to listen to how Trump was saying a lot of the things that we've been talking about in alternative media so much, and that's not to say that I endorse him. This is where it gets really dicey.
Right.
In some ways, you could almost argue that it was an election between two unacceptable candidates. And it became like Mickey Mouse. It became like reality TV. And I certainly am put in an awkward position because we're getting intel saying that Trump is actually going to, that either Trump or Bernie Sanders, if they won, were going to aggressively prosecute the core of the problem, the cabal that is running the show behind the scenes. It's not elected. It's not really any type of regular government, but it is an entity that controls 80% of the world's wealth through a series of 147 mega banks that are all interconnected as one big interlocking directorate. So there's been some huge strides this year towards breaking up that cartel, and there's been a lot of fighting going on behind the scenes and a lot of hacks that were announced and things like this. But honestly, I never in a million years thought that Trump would actually win the election. I had completely resigned to the idea that Hillary was going to take it,
right,
whether she won it or not, because I had insiders telling me that even if not a single American voted for Hillary, that she would still have a really good chance of winning.
Right, right.
And then we saw copies of Time magazine that got leaked that already had her winning with her face on the cover as the President of the United States. Really crazy stuff where somebody hacked into a news aggregate site for AP and that they already had all the fake voting totals on there ready to be farmed out to the media outlets. It definitely looked like the fix was in. They did not think this was going to happen, and I think the month of October really was the decisive tipping point because they went after Trump from the Democratic side with this whole thing about him being on that bus and saying to grab women by the you-know-what.
Right.
They thought that was going to be curtains for him, but then the counter move that the alliance made, because there is an alliance, and we've talked about it quite a bit, it's all 15 of the intelligence agencies in America are now decisively against the cabal. They have all collectively gotten fed up with taking orders from an entity that, no matter how compartmentalized they tried to keep intelligence before, everybody's aware now that it's corrupt. So there are certain sub-factions and agencies that are still supporting the cabal, but for the large degree, they are out on a limb, and the limb is getting sawed off.
Is it panic mode? We're going to get to that in a little bit too as well, but is it panic mode? And if it is,
oh, absolutely,
that's when we should actually be the most nervous, right?
It was. I would agree. I wouldn't say nervous. I'd say prepared and cautious.
Right, right.
It was when they leaked that Trump video that they thought was going to destroy his campaign that they got instant karma, and the alliance dropped the Podesta emails. And this is where it started bad enough, because you start to hear about all kinds of Democratic tampering with the election, tampering with the media, paid off journalists. There was so much scandal around Hillary that even the people who were so deeply ensconced in the mainstream view, they couldn't ignore it. And, you know, I would say Boulder, Colorado is probably one of the most liberal cities in America. That's where we tape for Gaia.
Right.
And just hearing the off-the-cuff private conversations between very liberal-looking women in a sushi restaurant in Boulder, they were not happy about Hillary. They were going to vote for Hillary, but they didn't really want to.
Right, right.
And that's why I say, for a lot of people, it really was a choice between two unacceptable candidates. And then you got to kind of juggle in your mind, okay, which of these two is less evil? And which of these two is less apt to, like, totally screw things up?
Do you remember the famous Apple ad that they did in the Super Bowl back in, 84 or whatever? The George Orwell, right? Well, that feels like what the public ended up doing with mainstream media after being pummeled for 8, 9, 10 months of fake news, misleading news, different networks completely misguiding the facts on both sides. It didn't matter who it was, but nobody knew who to trust or believe anymore. And here we have this tremendous revolt now going on against the mainstream media, and everything seemed to have backfired. And then we have prop or not, right? And we should discuss that. Yes.
Let's just rewind the tape a few years back, 10 years or so, and let's talk about what happened when Tom Cruise came out and openly criticized a very popular female celebrity's use of pharmaceutical medication.
Right.
Because, of course, I'm not a Scientologist. I don't support Scientology. But one of their policies is that they don't support pharmaceutical medication for psychological ailments. They believe in healthy diet. Any group like that's got to have some things that are good, that are hooks that pull people in. One of them is, if you have a healthy diet and exercise, you're going to take care of your mental health as well. You don't need to take all these pharmies. So he comes out swinging against pharmies, which is the only business on earth that makes the cabal more money than oil.
Right.
And what do you think happens? All of a sudden, he gets a little exuberant on Oprah, jumps up and down on the couch, which, it was kind of corny, but come on. They destroyed him. And for years, he couldn't even work. And this is a guy who'd already done Eyes Wide Shut back in 1999, and then right before the film comes out, Stanley Kubrick ends up dead.
Right.
And he dies the same way that one of the guys died in the film. And the film, of course, exposes the cabal totally. And then they mysteriously cut out 21 minutes of the movie. And we now know what those missing 21 minutes were, by the way. The missing so if you watch Eyes Wide Shut right now, it's a very strange thing because there's this really absurdly prolonged section at the beginning where Tom Cruise's wife, Nicole, played by Nicole Kidman, who actually was his wife, that's another weird thing about the movie, she is dancing with some kind of really wealthy French guy for like a long time, and he keeps hitting on her and hitting on her and hitting on her. It turns out that the deleted 21 minutes ends up that she becomes part of the ceremonies as well, not just Tom, and that the guy she was dancing with was the leader of the cult. And that's why they spent so much time talking with this guy, and then the guy just disappears. It's like, well, why would you set up that character if it's not going anywhere?
Right.
Because it was going somewhere. But it was so incriminating that the cabal changed it, and then when the guy in red says, "Remove your clothes," that's actually a different voice. They dubbed in a different guy's voice. The original voice would have been the same voice of the guy that was dancing with Nicole Kidman. They took all that stuff out, and if you actually get the DVD and you watch Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman being interviewed for this thing, they are really freaking out about when they're asked questions about Stanley Kubrick's death. Because they know, everybody in Hollywood knows about this. And Amy Berg's documentary, An Open Secret, I finally got to watch it only because it was leaked on YouTube, and I've never been able to even find a legitimate copy of it. And it talks about these sex trafficking scandals in Hollywood, which of course include the fact that unless you are, a celebrity who goes way back, or if you have celebrity parents or something like that, or if you have a lot of money, unless you're in one of those three categories, most people end up basically having to prostitute themselves in order to get a career. It's a very sad fact. And this is an epidemic throughout our society. And it wasn't until the Podesta emails came out that we finally started to get the movement for change. And, of course, the Pizzagate thing explodes right before the election when the FBI Director James Comey sensationally reopened the investigation into the Clinton emails on October 28th based on 650,000 new emails seized out of Anthony Weiner's laptop, of course, Anthony Weiner being the husband of Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. And then, just in less than a week, we went through everything. There's nothing here.
Right.
Now, I spoke to Pete Peterson, who worked in at least 3 presidential administrations on a very high level of intel. He's arguably the most advanced inventor in the history of black ops. He's got more inventions behind him than any inventor in the open world except for maybe Tesla. And in fact, his grandfather was Tesla's lab assistant. We actually now have an interview with Pete Peterson that just aired on Gaia as the Cosmic Disclosure episode last week. And it lit up the comment boards. It was so popular because, I've been talking to Pete since 2009, and only now, 7 years later, after the original Camelot video where he was threatened not to talk anymore after that came out.
That's right.
Now we finally got him to come out again. So that's very exciting. But my point in bringing Pete up is you can't imagine the amount of computer power that would be required to properly assess 650,000 emails for hidden words, keywords, code phrases, hidden steganography where there's like a secret image inside a JPEG that's not really what the JPEG looks like, but it's buried in the metadata.
Right.
You cannot go through those emails in a week and find all that stuff. In fact, one of the things he told me is if you took the entire NSA facility in Bluffdale, Utah, with this awesome amount of computer power that they have, it basically sucks up half of the American power grid just to run the thing.
Just about.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's classified, but it's true.
Yeah.
They actually had to cut the power to HARP in Alaska because they needed more power for that thing, because one of the main things it's doing is taking everybody's phone calls, and it uses a system just like Siri on your iPhone, and it makes transcripts.
Yeah, well, they use up like half the water in Utah just to keep it cooled, right?
I know.
It's crazy.
And so you would need that kind of processor power. If you could use that entire facility and do nothing but search those 650,000 emails for keywords, maybe you could get it done in 8 days. Maybe.
Wow.
So the idea that a few FBI agents could go through a much larger amount of that data in that time is ridiculous. So what we heard was Comey had different groups that were putting lethal pressure on him. You have this alliance, which again Russia is involved in it, and I don't think Russia's bad. I mean, this whole all of a sudden they're trying to reinvoke the Cold War. It's like, sorry, it's too late, guys. Russia has been our ally for a long time, and whining about getting hacked. Well, yeah, if the hack says something that makes us realize that the people that we've been seeing as our trusted leaders are not to be trusted, then why is that such a bad thing?
Well, and why make it public? Because this is one thing is for sure. We are hacking them as you and I speak right now, right? We are attacking we are looking and inside of their systems right now. Right? This is what's going on. This cat and mouse spy versus spy has gone on going back to Rome and Greece, in 400 BC.
And who does it better than the United States and the NSA, who owns the backbone of the Internet?
Period.
Where up until ICANN was changed in October,
right,
they had complete control of the backbone of the Internet.
Complete control. And even that ICANN announcement, it still is inside of the United States. It was like some kind of official position that we're letting go of this to international scrutiny. But if you really look at the fine print of ICANN, it's still here, man. we never let anything go.
It really sounds like some dealer all high calling up the cops and saying, "Somebody stole 10 kilos of cocaine, man. I had it in my back of my truck. What the hell? What do I do? Come on in and talk to us about that."
Yeah, right. Let's give you. Here's our address. Right. Well, and then really quick before we hit this break, I want to set up what we're going to talk about next, which is Prop or Not, and their list of websites. And now, thankfully, Fade to Black wasn't on it. Divine Cosmos didn't make the cut, so maybe it would have been cool.
I was really let down.
Yeah, right.
It's like a badge of honor now to be on their
to be on the list.
Top list, but
InfoWars,
but Gaia was my television network was,
and they are claiming that everybody on this list is under Russian control, or they're implying that, right? And InfoWars is that, right? And okay, so you see InfoWars, all right, I can kind of understand that, just kind of, but Gaia? Hey, David, are you guys Russian? You might as well tell me now.
Yeah, the yoga is a very powerful KGB weapon because it turns out that the women can snap a guy's thing in half if they do enough Kegels.
Gaia. You know, and I think Coast was on another list too as well. They didn't make it, or maybe they were on Prop or Not. But check this out. I don't know if you know this, but I looked at the Prop or Not's latest update. Right? Are you ready for this? They removed from the list, and I hope you are listening to me. They removed Above Top Secret. They take off Above Top Secret as not fake news, but they leave Gaia on. Now,
because Above Top Secret is a honey trap built by the government.
Bingo.
To lure people in and then disinform them. So they don't want that on the list.
They don't want
people to go there.
It's so funny. Man, Above Top Secret, don't get angry at me. I'm just repeating the rumors. You know, but
look, any discussion forum like that is going to be a feeding ground for trolls. There's a lot of people trying to put out good stuff on there.
Yep.
But there are some very intense trolls, and they are not real people. They are government-paid operatives. This has all been leaked in the Snowden documents extensively. We know exactly what they're doing. We know what the program code names are. We've seen their booklets of how they're trained on what to do, psychological operations, and the whole thing.
Yeah, when I saw them get removed from the list, I was like, really? Now that is interesting, but it's right here. So they're off the list, but InfoWars is there.
I think they've done us all a favor because they've curated a list of what websites we should be looking at.
Right. Well, they still
make
have
it your daily routine and click through that. You know.
They still have rents on the list, so let's not go too far here. But Gaia, and what was Gaia's response to this?
I haven't had any official communication with them, but the thing that we really need to be aware of is this is something that was done extrajudicially without any congressional oversight. Nobody voted on it. Nobody had a chance to oppose it. And they are already making very aggressive moves to completely block people's ability to access any sites on the hate list. And that means Google is blocking it and demonetizing it. Facebook is blocking it and demonetizing it. Apple has a new server. You can't see it on Apple anymore. Snapchat has a server. You can't see it on Snapchat anymore. Well, wait a minute. Google is not just a search engine. It's an entire operating system on a lot of the mobile phones that are out there and smartphones. It's a Gmail, and almost everybody has a Gmail address. That means that you might not actually get an email that has certain keywords in it. It'll go auto-route into your spam and trash, which has been happening to me for months and months and months already.
Yep, happens to me every day.
People try to send me things with too many keywords. I never get it.
That's right. That's right. We need
but Facebook is an enormous resource for people to communicate. I will use Facebook because I have to, but I strongly dislike Facebook.
We're going to talk about Facebook when we come back. Saw some interesting things over the last couple of days there. We'll address that. Our guest tonight, the one and only David Wilcock. It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be back more with David right after this short break. Stay with us. Stay with us, David.
Yep.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Kat Deely, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Sobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
How you doing? It's Jimmy here from Zipa. Today I wanted to tell you about my efforts to achieve global elimination of snoring. It all starts with respect. Respect for yourself and respect for others. Listen, you think you're being a nice guy or a nice girl by letting the guy or girl next to you sleep and snore every night. It's the ultimate disrespect to have that happen. You wake that person up and you tell them, go to Zipa.com now. ZYPPAH .com. We're not going to tolerate this, all right? Snoring is not okay. Someone next to you is snoring, you tell them to buy a Zyppah. ZYPPAH.com. I know that you listen to these snoring things and you're thinking, well, it don't apply to me. I don't have these problems. A lot of people are in denial, but it's true. Listen, if you're snoring, you got to stop it. What you got to do is get this fixed. Get a Zyppah and change your life. ZYPPAH.com.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're of the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Our guest tonight, David Wilcock. I was just listening to Micah Hanks' little drop there. We're going to have Micah on the show on Wednesday. He's great. Hey, David, have you ever met Micah Hanks?
I have not.
Okay, man, he does the best Alex Jones impression you have ever heard in your life. And you need to.
That would be enjoyable.
Yes, man. He does it. He does it. He does it. You know what? He might even do a better Nori. You wouldn't know. If I had him on the show right now, you would not know. He would mess with you. Yeah, he's really good. Okay, Facebook. I noticed something interesting. Obviously, they made the announcement this week that they were do the crackdown and start labeling things as fake news. And I noticed that something has been missing from my feed and from my timeline, which is any news at all. It's like gone. I was I was hoping. I wanted to see something flagged, right? And who was getting flagged, and I wanted to see it. I've got nothing. I've got no news in my feed.
You see, what I do is I have a series of I use Firefox, and Firefox has a bookmarks toolbar. So right below where the website address is, you get a series of little tabs, and you can delineate what websites those tabs go to. So you click on it, you get one click, you go right to that site. So the sites that I really want to visit, and a lot of them are like the mainstream sites that aggregate what's most viral on the internet, like dig.com is one I'm always going to.
Right.
I always go to drudgereport.com.
Right.
That way I'm just in control. And so what's happening, and this is what I'm telling people, is you've got to find workarounds. You can't just be lazy and be dependent on Facebook or somebody emailing you something, because you're not going to get that email and you're not going to see it on Facebook anymore. You're going to have to be more proactive about getting your news.
And
this is a total desperation move. I want to be clear on that. This is the kind of thing where somebody has already jumped off the cliff, but they're trying to shoot at their enemies as they plummet to the earth with no parachute.
Right.
It's a suicide leap. This is not the work of anybody winning. This is a last-ditch effort before they're totally gone. Because what it appears to be is that all of this very actionable intel that people are hearing about Pizzagate, which I have, again, summarized extensively in Endgame Part 1, so we already agreed, Jimmy, before the show, we don't want to talk about the disturbing details of this in the holidays, but we're not hiding it either. You can totally go read, go to divinecosmos.com, click on Endgame, and you'll see it there. That intel is, I would say, 5,000% more than we need to open a very serious criminal investigation.
Right.
And it is going to happen, but it can't happen until the inauguration after that, because Obama could issue pardons and stop the prosecution from rolling forward. So that appears to be why things are in this agonizing holding pattern right now. And if the cabal's ever going to make a counter move, they better do it soon, and they know that. So there's a lot of things they're trying. And there is all this chatter about Russian interference in the elections, and Obama had a speech the other day where he said, we are going to retaliate. Some of it will be publicly visible, some of it will not. It's like, dude.
Right.
I mean, he's talking like a frickin' Chicago mafia hitman.
Yeah, he is.
You're not going to see what we're going to do. What do you mean by that? That's like putting the horse head on the pillow, man.
And the other part for the audience, let's not lose sight of things like Operation Mockingbird, which
of course,
exactly. And when we're talking about fake news, and we're heading that direction right now, you and I, so we'll stay on this path. But when we're talking about fake news and websites that are creating fake news, and that they're not even journalists that are creating this fake news. Okay, whatever. But I have no idea how many websites that are out there that are created by the CIA, the NSA, used to propagate mood swings in the general populace. I have no idea, but they're there.
Well, Jimmy, let's just start by looking at the etymology of the word news. The word news is a British word that means that which is new. It started as a joke, and then it just got taken on as an actual word. News is that which is new. So fake news is an oxymoron. It doesn't even exist. There is no such thing as fake news. News is that which is it's new information. You know?
And
news should be a democratic process, and what has happened by this cutout group that we know it's financed by Bill Gates, we know it's financed by Soros, the ties have already been published. This group comes out of nowhere, they're totally anonymous, nobody's standing behind it and saying, we're the ones doing this, but all of a sudden they're extremely aggressive, and if you actually read what it says on the blacklist 200 sites that they've got blacklisted, they're being very aggressive, and they're saying, if you can come to us begging on your knees, crying, and explain that you are not working for Russia and you will never do any of the things we're defining as propaganda, then maybe we'll take you off this list.
And, you
have to come simpering and whimpering on your knees and beg them.
Right.
Maybe they'll do it.
There's a couple of sites on here, not to dwell on this list for too long, but there's a couple of, like UFOholic. Why would they be on the fake news list? I mean, why? It's UFOs, right? And I like UFOholic, and it's just strange to see them on this list.
The most ridiculous thing about this, and let's just get right to the brass tacks. I am an adult. You are an adult. Most of the people listening to this show are adults. We probably have some really cool indigo children listening as well.
Right.
But it's probably mostly adults. I can make up my own mind about what I want to read. I don't need somebody telling me that they, in their ivory tower, that, ABC, CBS, NBC, Snopes, and BuzzFeed are good. Everybody else is on provisional state, and guess what? Until they can prove themselves, we're not even going to let you see them because, you don't want to be bothered with all this stuff. Let me make up my own mind. That's the era that we're in. And so what they're trying to do is create the People's Republic of America here. It's ridiculous. And people are going to get so mad that, what supposedly is going to happen is that when you try to post a link on Facebook, it's going to have a pop-up screen, and I'm going to write an Endgame Part 3 here. Even though I'm out here in New York for family, I'm going to be writing. And they're going to have a screen that pops up that tells you that this content has been flagged by trusted third parties as being suspicious. Do you still want to post it? And if you say yes, then they say that it gets buried in the feed, whatever that means. But, Jimmy, what you're saying is you're not even seeing it at all.
Right.
It's not that it's buried. It's that it's freaking gone.
Right. And
there's no buried space you can go to go dig it up.
And who is determining that the state-sponsored propaganda is real or not, right? Who's that third party?
Absolutely. Look, I didn't want to come out swinging against New York Times. I'm a double New York Times bestseller, but when my book came out on August 29th, that same exact day, not only... Okay, so the book comes out, and I debut at number 11 in the world on the Nielsen ratings, which is the actual count of how many books people sell. It's the same thing as the Nielsen ratings of television or radio. They also do it for books. Based on actual sales volume, I was 11 in the world. It was a better performance than either of my previous two books, which were New York Times bestsellers. I was ahead, significantly ahead, by over 1,000 units sold of at least three other books that were on the New York Times bestseller list, but they didn't put me on. And they offered the publisher no explanation. So that was one of the things that happened. Then, on the exact same day, which we only know now retroactively because I didn't find out about this till recently, on the day that my book came out, I got deleted off of Wikipedia by their own gatekeepers. And I'm going to show this in Part 3. There is a page in which they discuss the second deletion of David Wilcock. And these people are saying that I am not notable enough to even be mentioned on Wikipedia. And then somebody's arguing with the guy and saying, come on, man, he's got 2 New York Times bestsellers. He's on one of the most popular shows on History Channel. It's actually the most popular show, Ancient Aliens. Well, there's just not enough about him that's credible. What they really were saying was there's no mainstream coverage of David Wilcock. There's nothing mainstream that rips him apart that we can use. Therefore, he's not notable. Check back in 2 years and we'll see if he's notable enough that will allow him to have a Wikipedia page that hates him and rips him apart.
That's incredible.
So this has gotten personal, man. I
right.
mean, they are trying to rub us out of existence. I've got, as another example, it started around maybe February or March that YouTube, I don't know what the hell is going on, man. It is the craziest thing. And for somebody on the outside looking at this, it could never compare to what it feels like for me as a person. That I'm watching, I don't know, I'm talking scores and scores. A score means 20. Scores and scores and scores of fake David Wilcock YouTube channels.
Oh, man,
there's
daily.
So many of them.
Right.
There's got to be over 100. And then any one of them might upload 20 new videos a day. And what are these videos? They're the cheapest, crappiest. They have terrible graphics. They have terrible audio. It's usually radio shows just like this, but a lot of times they're really old. Because I've been working for 20 years in the public eye.
They're already posting. They're already posting this show right now. Right now, it's already going up.
Yeah, it's very upsetting.
Yes.
Because one of the things they're doing is they're loading it up with ads. Now I will say this quite truthfully. I have never wanted in my life to whore myself out to advertisers like Geico who are going to pay me frickin' $7 per 1,000 hits on their ad. That's chopping up a $7 into 1,000 pieces. And that's how much they're saying I'm worth. So no, I don't do YouTube ads. It's not worth it. I'd rather not have the ads. And I've tried as much as possible. You look on my website, I don't have Google ads. I don't have Outbrain or Taboola. I don't have lose fat in 7 amazing ways and weird tricks. Okay?
Right. We don't do
there.
it either. No, we don't do it either.
And then what's happening is that people are typing in my name, and then they write in words like hot and new, and all these videos appear to be hot and new, but then you start listening to it and you realize it's not hot and it's not new.
Right.
And then they're doing things like actually digitally slowing down the sound of my voice so I sound like I'm half retarded.
Right. So
it's really bizarre.
Yeah, they do that.
And then there's...
Well, they do it...
Let me just rant a little bit more.
Oh, go.
They also are taking my articles, and they are digitally robo-voicing the articles. And then it's just like me talking with a robo-voice, and there's not even any graphics. And then people... So we finally, Corey and I finally decided we're going to start fighting this. So Endgame Part 2, I actually narrated it, and then Corey had his own team do a video. And last I checked, Corey's version was at like 100,000 views. My version, which has a little bit different at the beginning and the ending, is at like 35,000 views or something. I also want to point out, since these are being stolen, we might as well Trojan horse this, right? So everybody should go to dwilcock.com. That's my first initial, my last name, DWILCOCK. And you can actually download a professional audiobook quality post-produced version of the audio that I did for free. All we need is your email address. We're not going to send you a bunch of junk. It's only real stuff. So the first thing you get is the free audio, and then a day later or so, you get a free book of this incredible channel material from the 1950s that talks about this epic solar change that's going to happen. So that's what we're offering. And by talking about it like this and embedding it into the show, go ahead and steal it, because at least that way there's something that traces back to me, and it isn't just this epic theft. But, Jimmy, I don't know what the heck this is, and all I can say is that part of what 2016 has been for me is this absolutely shocking thing. That YouTube has something called Content ID verification, and if you are allowed to do that, what it does is it prevents anybody from re-uploading your videos. They don't allow me to do that. If I want to take down these videos, I have to file manual takedown notices on every single one. But I'm literally not kidding. People are going to think I'm exaggerating. I'm really not. But when I say this, there's 20 to 50 new stolen videos a day that are getting re-uploaded. It's happening so fast on such an industrial scale that even if I had probably 4 or 5 staff people working full-time, I would still not be able to keep up with it.
Yeah, we deal with it.
I actually filed a grievance with YouTube in which I showed them entire channels in which you click on the All Videos link, and every single one is a stolen piece of my audio. And they said, no, Mr. Wilcock, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing wrong. F you, go away.
Yeah, we deal with it every single day. Yeah, we have, over 500 videos posted, right? Because we post every show every single day up to YouTube. So, do the math. And a large, you and I don't know how many shows that you and I have done together, but those... Several. All of those have been out and distributed out to hundreds of sites. And so we have Content ID, and we have a staff that deals with it. But you have no idea. When you're saying this to the audience, they don't get it. We have fake Fade to Black channels, fake David Wilcock channels, and they take it's amazing. They'll use our company logo. Everything looks official, and they've got 500 videos uploaded. How much time, So anyway, I got email this week from somebody, and they don't realize that we have everything now automated, like you're talking about with Content ID. And we have a management company that handles everything for us now, thank God. But I get this email, and this guy literally said, dude, if you pull down my channel, I will create 20 more. Right? Yep. It's in an email. I'm like, man, why are you why? Go create your own stuff. And he literally said, man, keep messing with me. I'll create 20 more channels. So, but anyway, I think what it boils down to is that if people put out
scores and scores and scores of videos that get 21 clicks, but one of them hits and they get 100,000 views, then they get $700.
Right.
And that's worth it. But that's only the prosaic view. The conspiratorial view is that this is all done by the cabal, because what's happening is this is completely watering down and destroying the ability for me to have a legitimate viral video.
That's right.
When I put out my actual viral video, The Ascension Mysteries, earlier this year, it was the first time that I used all these things I've been working on. I had dreams for 2 years telling me you need to learn Adobe After Effects. So I've got some really nice chops now to make Hollywood-quality cinematic openings for videos. And I did that on this video. By any normal stake of the imagination, that video should have had 2 or 3 million hits based on what my other videos did. But because there's so much garbage clogging it up, I think only recently did we actually break 250,000. And so, you know, if I had sold YouTube ads or something on that, I would have, gotten like maybe $2,000.
Right.
Which is, you know, again, it's not, for me, it's not worth it, because I'm going to do things like Conscious Life Expo. I'm going to get people into a room and actually earn my money that way. The money is so minuscule for selling these ads. It's like I'd rather not be associated with it. But then they're not even going to let you anyway. That's the funny part. The people that are doing this stuff are being demonetized. Go ahead and make your Pizzagate video, but you're not going to be able to sell ads. And so that is an effort to try to kill the people, financially kill them, who are doing this on YouTube, and that's their business.
And that was the other
incredible
thing. Yeah, it's a weird. I don't want to bag on YouTube, because it is a great venue for.
It's an incredible resource.
It's a credible resource, but yet, if you have certain, because we'll post stuff and I'll see that we can't monetize it because of one single word in the title of the video. So you got to play this game, right? You've got to go back and rename it and do things. But you're exactly right. It's a way to silence the message too, as well, and it's very, very clever on what gets seen and what doesn't, and what goes viral and what doesn't. And at times, I've seen our numbers go backwards. I'm like, now how did that happen?
Definitely.
Right. I'm like, wait a minute. This video was at such and such a number yesterday, and I click on it today, and I'm missing, you know, whatever. It's bizarre. Now, I wanted to go back to, you brought up Podesta, and we're going to head to a break here. Last year, or in 2016, at the beginning of the year, that famous tweet comes out from Podesta, you know, about disclosure. And the one thing that he was disappointed about was the UFO subject, and he became the
everybody
darling.
in our community wanted to like this guy. He was like our hero.
He was
like
our
the
hero.
guy on the inside fighting for disclosure.
Right. And he was our,
it's like, wait a minute, dude, you got a painting on your wall of a guy that people are with knives and forks around him eating his body? What the hell are you doing, man?
And so now we can't mention Podesta's name anymore in ufology.
Right.
Is there?
He's persona non grata, man.
Totally, man.
You can't go there.
You can't. And is this? It's like a two-edged sword here. Is there somebody trying to bring down Podesta because of the ufology stuff? Does he have a? Well, I don't want to get into Pizzagate, but is there a direct connection here, or is it all made up? And now, one thing is for sure about Podesta is he's past tense. He's past tense, man. He's passé. We can't mention his name anymore.
He hasn't made any public statements about this whole thing at all, and that's very telling. Now, the guy that owns Comet Pizza certainly has. He's actually become kind of like a celebrity, and they're painting him as this victim, you know, as pariah. But it's like, well, dude, your Instagram was public. You know, we're not talking about like stuff that anybody's making up here. This was all very, as I said to you before, it's 5,000% more than you need for a very intense criminal investigation. So here's what I think is going on with Podesta. And you had mentioned this before we were on the air, and I said, let's just save this for the air.
Right.
So now you're going to get it. What I think is going on is that he has been the primary fixer for the Clintons all along, and that means the guy who fixes problems. And it does appear, and this is based on actual multiple insiders that have shared this with me, and these are people who have absolutely demonstrated their bona fides. So we're not talking about anybody who's just a random person that would email me and say, oh, I have inside information. No, these people are heavily vetted out, and they have to go through that in order for me to even listen to them. And what we find is that this plan for disclosure that Podesta was talking about has always been the final move that the cabal could make to save their bacon when they really are on the brink of being exposed, because they always have known this. Now that we know about Pizzagate, go back and listen to George Bush Sr. when he has an off-the-cuff remark with a journalist and says, if people found out what we were really doing, we would be dragged out into the streets and lynched. And that did happen, by the way. I've researched that quote. It is not fake. He did say that.
But
disclosure... And there was some article I wrote years ago where I did all the fact-checking on that, and it actually is real.
And what is strange here is, and we're going to hit a break in 2 minutes, but disclosure, and cosmic disclosure for that matter, is not fake news, right? It's just
not at all.
Right.
Fake news is completely a joke, because the level of trust in the mainstream media based on certain authentic polls is like 12%. The people hate the media more than they hate Congress, which was at like 14%. Okay, 14% approval. So come on, you guys, it's way too late. And just because you got your hands on a big gun and you can shut off the internet to these sites, at least through the content aggregators that most people are using, it doesn't mean we like you. It doesn't mean we listen to you or even give a crap what you're saying. There's only 22,000 people watching CNN News.
Right.
I talked about this on Wisdom Teachings, my show on Gaia. They've already died. If they were ad-supported, they would be dead. But it's the corporate welfare that's keeping them propped up through redistributing their assets from other things they have that are still making some money, or money that they're just stealing from things like gun trafficking and drug trade, which is illegal businesses that they control.
Right.
So they're keeping the appearance up of propping these things up, these straw men that make it look like, oh, people are still listening to this, but nobody is. That's what makes the fake news thing so strange.
And they had it at one time. You know what I mean? They had
gone. Yeah,
and
it's gone.
It's gone. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, David Wilcock. When we come back, well, we've got a lot to talk about, but we're going to talk about Corey Goode specifically. But we're going to jump down to Antarctica, too, as well. We'll be right back. More with David right after this. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
You get a Zipa. You get a Zipa, you hear me?
What's the name when you snort? It's Zipa, Zipa. It's the thing we're craving for. It's Zipa, Zipa. You can't sleep all night. Zipa, Zipa. And wake up feeling right. It's Zipa, Zipa. Makes me love my husband more, 'cause he no longer snores. Zipa, Zipa, it's Zipa, Zipa.
Zipa's different than any other device because it actually works. A lot of these other devices, they just bring the jaw forward. That's it. However, the thing that makes Zipa different, it stabilizes the tongue, basically, with this elastic band. But right here, Jimmy's telling you that this is a unique device. Go to Zipa now, buy it, and stop the snoring. Get a Zipa, ZYPPAH.com. Zipa.com. That's ZYPPAH.com.
Oh, fall. My favorite time of year. Cooler temperatures and, well, let's be honest,
Layers. Lots and lots of layers. Look, I get it. We all have that favorite hoodie. Matter of fact, I've got a few favorite hoodies. You should wear yours. Enjoy it. I do. But I stay focused on my health year-round. And for me, I take Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. I eat right, control my portion sizes, still maintain a commitment to regular fitness, and I get plenty of rest, and I take Nature's Youth RSF. It's okay to cover up your beach body for a few months, but don't just forget about it. Nature's Youth understands exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products, and Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain peak performance levels and fight the aging process. So layer up and get started today with Nature's Youth RSF. nature'syouth.com. Simple to use, even simpler to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. With us tonight, year-end wrap-up 2016, and we're talking about Endgame 1 and Endgame 2. David Wilcock. Now, David, is Corey Good telling the truth?
In my estimation, he is, yes.
And
this has started to cause some serious contentious debate online.
Yes, it has.
Without going into names, everybody knows who they are anyway. We've had some pretty prominent, and some of the most prominent people in the UFO field, or at least the people who were the most prominent, coming out and very aggressively trying to destroy our credibility. And, you know, I'm sorry that you guys didn't get the same insiders that I did. But I have been chasing after the best insiders for a long time, and Project Camelot comes along at the dawn of YouTube, and Kerry Cassidy and Bill Ryan did an amazing job uploading videos that were some of the most dynamite content out there for UFOs. For several years, they were scooping everybody, all the insiders, you know, and through working with them and networking with them and meeting some of their witnesses who would not go on camera, who would not speak publicly, I got to get into other compartments of this thing that most people did not ever hear. And it was not public, and it was not part of the conventional disclosure narratives, and it was nothing that you heard from other people that were already public. And I was aware that I was hearing original information. But also what I would do is I would listen very carefully and I would take notes. And when I start to hear other people saying the same stuff that I've never made public, not something where in the case of there's countless fake insiders and fake channelers and this kind of stuff where they will parrot what I've been disclosing and then a week later they come out with the same thing. Well, and then people start sending me all these links, and they say, oh, David, this guy's saying the same thing you're saying. It's like, yeah, he said it after I said it. And then there's all these mistakes in there. What I know is a huge data set of information that had been building really since about 2007, I guess, is when I started to get information that was really off the beaten path of ufology that was a lot more interesting, a lot more far out. And I was being told, oh, you'll never be able to talk about this. You'll get a knock on the door the next morning if you ever put this on the internet. Then Corey Good comes along, and he knows just about everything that I was told, if you ever talk about this, you're going to get a knock on the door the next day. And we've actually put that stuff out. And so I finally have been able to say, so many things that I never was allowed to say because I was worried about what would happen to me if we talked about this, and we've somehow been able to just bash through this secrecy. It's pretty incredible.
With when it comes to Corey, and you're putting this information out there, and people come back that we both respect, and I like the way that you put that, former, right? but
being very tactful and careful here.
What and we should, because these are people that we hang out with too as well. But
Sure.
the thing
I don't dislike any of these guys.
What happened?
And it is guys. I don't think there's any women doing this.
Well, what happened to having an open mind? And listening to all of the information and collectively, because we're in a very touchy subject here. And there's enough witnesses and videotapes and photographs and eyewitness and things that I have seen and things that, we know that there's something going on. But what happened to having an open mind and listening to everybody and getting everything out there on the table instead of saying, I am right, you are wrong, on a subject that we are trying to get to the bottom of to begin with? What happened to that?
I feel really bad. I do feel really bad for someone working as an investigator coming, having this thing, this cosmic disclosure, as we're calling it, crash in on their reality. Because I know that there's so much information saturation out there now that everybody has to choose what they're going to invest their precious time in studying. And I do apologize for the fact that the learning curve on the cosmic disclosure information is tremendously huge. So when Corey and I co-authored Endgame Part 2, which is the one that's already in videos, you just look for, type in Endgame David Wilcock and make sure that it's either David Wilcock 333 or Sphere Being Alliance, because everything else is stolen and fake. It's the one where I'm actually narrating it,
Right.
There's like 6 robo-voice versions of it. Don't waste your time listening to that. It's horrible. But anyway, on that co-author article, I said we need to actually give a resource where we kind of tell the story from the beginning, and we put the whole thing together in nice linear order. And so admittedly, a lot of that stuff that was the summary I wrote, and that's why it's co-authored. Corey's really good about telling the current level of the story, where it is right now, telling what happened to him, trying to remember as many specifics as he can. I'm really good on painting the backstory and the big picture stuff. So the two of us together makes a dynamite article. This article has been extremely, extremely popular and successful, and the videos have been extremely, extremely popular and successful. So, we're not making lots of money. It's another thing people need to be aware of. If you hear me say that a video gets 100,000 hits, that does not mean that we made $100,000.
Right.
We're not monetizing those videos at all. And as I said, even if you did and you got 100,000 hits, you'd get like $700. So this is not something. I actually saw somebody write a comment on my YouTube video. Well, David's a multimillionaire.
Really? I didn't know that.
Where the heck did you get that from?
Yeah. Me and you
I
need
have
to
one
hang
car.
out.
I rent one house. I don't even own a house. I have no equity, no security. It's like I earned the money that I earn. If I get extra money, I put it back into the work that I do for others. So it's ridiculous, but we're out there as a lone voice in the wilderness talking about something that is the cabal's most highly guarded secret, and that is they have an extraordinarily advanced presence in our solar system and in numerous nearby star systems as well. They have our society will change so dramatically if we get full disclosure, because everything that we see in the sci-fi films is the truth in some form. It's not exactly true. The ETs might not look exactly like they do, but the technology that we see, the types of experiences that people are going through, all of that stuff is very, very real. And they're doing this on purpose so that if somebody comes out and does tell the truth, And they'll say, oh, you're just talking about that teleportation system they use in the Terminator where the guy had to come through naked. No, there are certain teleportation systems in which you cannot bring anything inorganic through, and if you don't wear cotton clothes, they're not going to make it through the portal. But that's how they do it. They hide it out in the open, so then they can ridicule people if they talk about the same thing.
Right.
There's a movie for every part of the truth.
Interesting. I want to. I like the cotton clothes part because I've always wondered about that. But that would be organic, right? I want to go through really quick for everybody to clear up some confusion on certain things. I want to do some definitions really quick. It'll be simple.
Problem.
It'll be simple for you, but for the audience, they're going to go, finally, okay, because we talk about these things all the time. And they sometimes cross over. Anyway, let's go for some definitions. Who is or what is the Earth Alliance?
The Earth Alliance is one of 5 different groups, and the Earth Alliance is actually composed of what could well be dozens of different factions, and I think that's an important distinction that we haven't clarified before. If you wanted to try to look at it on a double-clicked overview, the Earth Alliance is a conglomerate group of factions which has a strong central pillar in what has now become the majority of the intelligence, military, and defense community in America and in the Western world, and, of course, very high-level participation from the vast majority of all the other countries in the world as well. Within that, you have countless different factions and sub-factions, and there are shifting allegiances all the time. More and more groups that were loyal to the Cabal are shifting over to the Alliance. And so when we talk about the Alliance, what I used to just say the Alliance until Corey came along. And then I started to realize it's a lot more complex than that. So when I used to say the Alliance, I was talking about this group that is sort of an international effort of a various number of sub-factions, all of which are working on a common goal, which is how do you defeat an entity that is absorbing 80% of the world's wealth, that is vastly more wealthy than anything else on Earth, that has control of the media, that has control of the internet, that has control of the governments, that has control of the judiciary, control of the police. You see the enormity of the challenge here. And the plan has been, when you get into deeper levels, aided greatly by extraterrestrials who have the ability to see the forest from the trees in a way that we don't.
Right.
And they have given invaluable intel to make this seemingly impossible task actually real, that you actually can defeat these people if you work hard enough.
The MICSSP.
This is now what we would call the next rung up on the ladder in the Alliance breakdown, where you have the military-industrial complex, and specifically we have different branches of it, such as the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, various compartments within within the Air Force and the Navy, and we have certain defense contractors, but primarily we're dealing with government-run defense organizations. And what has happened is that they had a space program that was created. So SSP means Secret Space Program, MIC means Military Industrial Complex. And this space program has been designed, probably since at least the 1960s, if not earlier, as a completely separate compartment that was intended to be the straw man, meaning this is the one they're going to disclose first. This is the one that has craft that look like what you see in 2001. This is the one that's going to disclose ancient crystalline-looking ruins like the monolith you see in 2001 that they found on Earth, they found on the Moon, and they found it out around Saturn, which then becomes Jupiter. I guess it was Saturn in the book, and then it became Jupiter in the movie. So this is a group that they planned on telling us that they have the ability to travel around the solar system And then over time, they're going to tell us, oh, by the way, we found these really cool ruins that are very ancient. We estimate they're over 1.8 billion years old.
Right.
Billion with a B.
Right.
So that's the second level of the alliance. Because these guys, they were lied to. They were told that they were the top of the crop. They had no-fly zones. They weren't supposed to go there. They say, well, those are other programs. But, you know, they didn't realize that they were literally being used as a sacrificial pawn in a greater chess game.
Right.
That they were completely expendable. They were made to be released, and that they are being kept in the dark, given the mushroom treatment. They are not being given anywhere near the level of technology that is available. They have, I mean, they do have anti-gravity. They do have some cool stuff, but it's like the Model T Ford compared to a Lamborghini.
Right, right. Well, you heard my opening statement that I made about, you know, the official secret space program, which is kind of like jumbo shrimp, right? It doesn't make sense. But
that kind of stuff that you were talking about at the beginning is the initial building blocks that would lead to the disclosure of the MIC secret space program.
Exactly. And
those are the breadcrumbs.
That's
what
right.
they want to start with. Things like the X-37B.
Right.
Like, wait a minute. Why is this thing going up there and orbiting the Earth for 650 days?
Right.
What the heck are they doing up there?
It still blows my mind. You know, it's up there right now.
I mean, even if marijuana is legal for astronauts, there's only so many doobies you can smoke in space before you're like, dude, let's just go home.
Man, 2 years. Okay, the SSP Alliance.
Okay. Now we're getting into what would be considered a group that is fully aware of what's really going on. And again, I've had access to at least 4 insiders before Corey showed up who gave me all the stuff that Corey's been saying. Corey's not new. That's one of the things that the detractors don't understand.
Right.
Again, guys, I'm really sorry that these other folks didn't talk to you as well as me. I can't control that. They happened to speak to me. Under different circumstances, they might have also spoken to others, but that didn't happen. So I'm kind of at a disadvantage here because I have had countless hours of communications with people and gotten this information about what is a deeper level secret space program, in which now we're dealing with an extraordinary level of technology in which they basically can go anywhere in the galaxy they want using what they call the interstellar web, the series of portals that allow them to travel all over the place. They have the ability to time travel, but the problem is that it's very difficult to avoid creating paradoxes. And those paradoxes actually cause significant damage. So they actually have buffers on all their ships that prevent them from traveling back in time because it's so destructive. And the paradoxes can actually cause really negative entities to get in through what are called rifts. And this sounds like sci-fi, but it's all actually very, very true. And it really gets down to if you want to get into the physics of it, it gets to the fact that time itself, just like Einstein was saying, time is a function of space. Space and time are intertwined in what he called a fabric, but which is really more like a fluidic medium. And the really, really cool benefits that you get are that the flow of space-time is the flow of gravity, and therefore when you nullify the flow of gravity, which is anti-gravity craft will do that, you're also nullifying time. And then the really cool thing that happens is once you nullify time, you can move forwards and backwards in it. And then when you switch time back on, you've time traveled. That's the real secret. And it's kind of awkward for me because if you read a book like Source Field Investigations, I put out all the science for everybody, but it's like 100 years ahead of what anybody's really ready to understand right now. And I wouldn't have gotten this on my own. It's through a lot of very talented people and some sources like the Law of One that are clearly extraterrestrial in nature. And it was only by putting these pieces together that I was able to assemble this groundbreaking scientific model, which, again, it's very easy for people to be a keyboard warrior on the internet and fight this battle from their armchair without actually doing the research and having to study all the physics that I've done for so many years now.
Right.
It's a lot harder to understand how time is gravity-powered and why that works. But if you dig deep enough, all the science is there, and it's totally verifiable.
Now, and to be clear here for everybody, the SSP, Secret Space Program that I referenced at the beginning of the show that David and I have been talking about, that is controlled by the cabal. That is Pentagon, NSA, nastiness.
Even to this day, the main base that they have on the moon is in the shape of a swastika.
And
so that gives you some hints.
And the SSP, right. And the SSP Alliance is not controlled by the cabal. That is definitely a different situation.
So just to dot a couple I's and cross a couple T's, the SSP has dozens of bases on planets and moons all throughout our solar system. Just about every moon that you could land on in our solar system has some kind of stuff on it, either ours or from extraterrestrials. There's mining operations, there's colonies, all kinds of stuff. And they've colonized other star systems as well. Then what happens is you have a group that forms within the SSP and says, hey, you know what? We don't want to work for an organization that is ultimately being run by a predatory artificial intelligence that has infested certain species, primarily these reptilians, with nanites and is basically controlling them like remote-controlled robots. This predatory AI does appear to be Satan. I mean, it sounds crazy, but if you get back into what the Bible is talking about, one of the things I've had to come to is to really appreciate the value of the Bible. I was not Christian, but the more I'm looking at this stuff, I'm like, man, it's all in the book.
Right,
it's all there.
Right.
This idea of a satanic force is controlling the earth, check.
Right.
This idea that the devil looks like a reptilian, check.
Right.
This idea that the devil lives in hell, which is beneath the surface of the ground, check.
Right.
Okay.
It's
something's going on here.
That's right.
Who's the greatest enemy of the cabal? Jesus Christ. That's why they're constantly using movies to directly attack Christianity, which it's like, wait a minute, you guys, you've already won. Church attendance is down to 11% in America. It's even lower in Europe. Why are you beating a dead horse? There's very few people who are still really fervently Christian. Why are you so angry? Well, it's because ultimately what we're dealing with is a certain particular extraterrestrial group that had colonized our solar system 500,000 years ago. They also got infested by the AI. This is before the reptilians were infested by it. They got infested by it. Their whole civilization became basically internet on demand that's wired into your body. And one of the things that I heard from some of my insiders was they had a technology in which there's these what they call micro voltage fluctuations on your face, little tiny photons that your face gives off. So all you have to do is look at somebody either in person or over something like Skype, and it's basically the equivalent of Wi-Fi that exchanges between you and that person. And so this means that you have computer-assisted thought, and you can look at somebody and you can have a communication that would be the equivalent of millions of times faster than how we could communicate verbally right now. And it's with the computer-assisted communication that their brain can actually process that kind of information, and they can exchange it that quickly.
Scary.
So we had already reached this level of technology in our solar system 500,000 years ago. And George Lucas wrote a whole film about it, Star Wars. Star Wars is a documentary. Star Wars is a documentary in which the cabal shared the family jewels, and this included the fact that they found, from what I've heard, they found hundreds of thousands of androids that look almost exactly the same as C-3PO. So C-3PO is actually part of the disclosure. That they look just like that. The droids are real. And this civilization was a long time ago, but it was not in the galaxy far, far away. It was right in our backyard. And the Death Star is real. That's why you see every single Star Wars film, it comes back to Death Star, Death Star, Death Star, right? Now you got The Force Awakens. What's it about? They're trying to steal the plans for the Death Star. What was the other Star Wars movie last year about? The Death Star. The Death Star's real. There's at least 3 or 4 moons in our solar system that function as Death Stars, that have incredibly powerful, incredibly destructive particle beam technology in them that could actually wipe out an entire planet. And they were originally used benevolently, and then they got turned to the dark side. And so when you look at Darth Vader, you're seeing a human being who is half man, half machine. If you go into the prequels, which nobody wants to watch him anymore, but he has his arms and legs chopped off. He's got the robotic arms. He's got the breathing apparatus,
right.
All that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because he's part machine. Well, that is an analogy of these nanites that had infested everybody. And one of the really trippy things was that the shape of the ships that the Empire has in the Star Wars films is exactly what the Draco ships actually look like, except that they're black instead of gray. There isn't that little doohickey on the top.
Right.
But otherwise, they're almost identical.
Before we hit the break, we've got 2 more definitions I want to get out of the way. We've got 2 minutes to do it. The Inner Earth Alliance.
Okay, now we're getting even more into the weird stuff. To understand the Inner Earth Alliance is to understand that the Earth has what looks like bubble wrap below the surface, but on a much larger scale than bubble wrap. So what is bubble wrap? Bubble wrap's a series of hollow cavities inside plastic. The Earth has that everywhere. It's like a whole entire matrix of big giant caves, 20 to 40 miles deep. And there's just countless thousands of them all over the place. And interestingly enough, biology has given us a really cool little benefit in which there is bioluminescent bacteria that grows on the rooftops of these, so you can actually see inside them. And there are, in fact, little white critters that live in there. And there's running water and there's vegetation. It all looks kind of creepy. But ET civilizations can go in there and they can use that water and light as a starting point, and then they can terraform it. And a lot of people have been doing this for millions and millions of years. Occasionally they drop something on the surface of the Earth, and then we find it and we call it an out-of-place artifact or oopart. But they've been living inside the Earth. They look like us. They look human, but their eyes are slightly larger. And the Inner Earth Alliance is a group of human-looking beings that are working on our behalf to try to defeat the Cabal and get us jump-started into this ascension that I've been talking about so often.
All right, look, we have to take a break right here. Our guest tonight, David Wilcock. When we come back, well, we'll finish up with the Sphere being alliance. We'll get that definition going. But we've got a lot of stuff going on down in Antarctica. It's been a crazy year for down south, and we're going to get all of that out of the way in a little Buzz Aldrin. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
You've probably heard about all the great benefits of goat milk soap, but did you know some companies take shortcuts? At Old New England Soap, we make our organic goat's milk soap using 36% goat's milk. That's 17% more than most others. Our bars are larger, so they last longer, producing lots of lather packed with vitamins. And our soap is a natural moisturizer that smooths dry and damaged skin. Order online at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. You've tried the rest. Now try the best. oldnesoap.com.
Water-based soaps on supermarket shelves use harsh chemical acids to break down dead skin cells. And that's just not good for you. At Old New England Soap, our soaps are made without chemical ingredients, contain no alcohol or petroleum products, and use 85% organic materials and carry the USDA's organic certification. Try some today. Go to oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. oldnesoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have sciatica, then you know all about the crippling pain that travels from your lower back down your leg when a spasm occurs. It's brutal. In fact, it's enough to take your breath away. Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream helps relieve persistent, shooting pains associated with the sciatic nerve in the lower back and legs. This natural, homeopathic cream contains the most potent ingredients to soothe even the most excruciating pain associated with sciatica. Stop the pain now. Ask for Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream at your local health food store or go online to trasknutrition.com.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, David Wilcock, doing a wrap on 2016. We're talking about his two excellent posts that he did, Endgame 1 and Endgame 2. And we were going through some definitions for everybody just to help everybody out. And we were on the last one, the Sphere Being Alliance. David, help me out here.
Well, now we're into an even more bizarre category. And I will just say to start out that if you go back to the Egyptian and Sumerian paintings and inscriptions and statues, you see images of humans with bird-like heads.
That's right.
And typically this is just seen as a totem that we are being shown ritual images that are not based on anything real. But why are these people being drawn right beside humans that look like us? And what appears to be just an open acknowledgement that there were beings that looked like that back then. Well, we also have, as I said in Endgame Part 2, we have the bird tribes in Native American culture in which they are clearly depicted as humans with bird-like faces. And another really fascinating thing is the Tengu, the birdmen in Japan, in which I've dug up already at least 2 images that you can see on my website, and there's plenty more, of people that are human-looking with a blue appearance, again, the blue color, and they have a bird-like face. And we see from William Henry images of Horus in which he's painted blue.
Right.
As if he had blue-colored, if he was a bird, he would have blue-colored feathers. So then, fast forward to the big breakthrough for me was I found out UFOs are real right in this little town that I'm staying in upstate New York right now. It's when this all started for me. And that was when I was going to college, and I found out that NASA was covering up the truth. I spent basically 3-4 years doing nothing but researching UFOs in all of my available free time. I read over 300 books by the time I graduated college. And eventually I found this material called The Law of One. And I thought I had become quite knowledgeable
Oh, did we lose you, David? Oh, man.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, there you are. Whew. Okay. The Law of One.
Yeah, we're talking on a landline, by the way.
Yeah.
There is nothing going on here. We are not on a cell phone. This is a landline.
Yeah, that was
if
bizarre.
If we're getting interference, it's coming from something.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. I mean, you know what? I'm going to make sure we leave that in all future archives so everybody can hear that uncomfortable pause where we know something was going on. That was trippy. Okay, the Law of One.
So I don't know where I gapped out, but I'll just try to pick it up. So I had been doing research. I'd read 300 books by the time I graduated college in 1995. And then in January of 1996, I found this series of 4 at the time books. Then it became 5 later on. They had some deleted material they made a 5th book out of. And I couldn't believe it because this is clearly, if anything ever in my life qualified as higher intelligence, where it was really a higher intelligence that was actually talking to us, this would be it.
Right.
It read like something like the verbiage was so dense that most people can't even get into it because it's just they have all these weird terms and this unusual jargon, and it speaks at a very, very advanced level. And I was able to get through it only by spending like 45 minutes per page and really meditating on the words and the implications. And what I found was this is talking about so many things that I thought I had made individual discoveries of that nobody knew before. And yet here it is in this book. And by the way, I'm actually writing a book about this part of my life right now. It's called Awakening in the Dream, and that's going to be coming out in August 2017. I just got the contract in the mail. Once I sign it and send it back to them, which I'm going to do at this hotel, that's it. The deal's official. And I'm due for August 2017 release date, which means I got to write it fast. But
right on.
This whole part of what I'm talking about right now is what the book's going to be about. I'm going to get way more into the details of the Law of One than I ever have in any published book before. So I couldn't believe it because I get in there and it's talking about the idea of the global grid, which I thought was a personal discovery I'd made, that all 3,300 ancient stone monuments are all built on one geometric pattern that overlays the Earth's surface, what they call ley lines. There's certain nodes, and those nodes are where planes and ships are portaling out and disappearing. So there's something multidimensional about this geometry on Earth. And I was really into this. I'd read all kinds of great literature on it. I thought I was finding things nobody else had seen before. And I became very humbled because this book, this series of books, Law of One, was way beyond the level that I'd taken it. And it was literally like stepping into the Vatican Library with an unlimited reading pass. Go, you want to read the stuff from the exploded planet before they made it to the moon, before they crash landed on Earth as the fallen angels. You want to read their old books? Here, go ahead.
Wow.
It was like that.
Right.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I was educated enough to know what I was reading and know how true it was. And then the really crazy part was that 11 months after I started reading the Law of One, the source of the material contacted me telepathically. And I'd been having dreams for 4 years by this point, writing them down. And the dreams started saying, "We want to talk to you." So the tagline on the new book is, what happens when a UFO investigator is contacted by the source that he's investigating?
Right.
And that led to spoken words that came through me where I was following all the protocols of remote viewing, which means you don't analyze the data, you don't engage it, you don't have any emotional reaction, you just perform the procedure. And in my case, I modified their protocols to create verbal information. And I wouldn't really have it. I mean, I have a little bit of a knowledge of what was going on, but not very much. I wouldn't really know what it was until I went back and read it or later transcribed it when I put it on tapes.
Right.
And it was incredible what was happening. And so the book that I just wrote, The Ascension Mysteries, really doesn't even go into this part at all. I pretty much went right from my early cosmic experiences, recovering from being a heavy-duty marijuana smoker. I was smoking it 6 times a day. I really had a problem, and I quit in 1992. I just was one of those people that said, I can't do this at all. That's the only way I'm going to get my life together. And then I kind of go right from that into the story of the insiders that I met and what they told me, and that was my attempt to do full disclosure. And I think I did a bang-up job, and the book's got like 550 reviews on Amazon. They're almost all 5 stars. So there's a few haters here and there that go, I don't know why everybody's giving this 5 stars. It's like, well, then why are you not giving it 5 stars? Maybe because you don't understand it.
Or read
and
it.
I get it.
Right.
I did write about some personal stuff in the beginning that's contentious, talking about what it's like to, because I was one of those people that really, really was an addict, where it was like a seriously bad story, like something like a movie that you'd see where it's like, holy crap, how did this guy ever get out of this? He's really, really an addict. Well, I was really, really an addict. And there are plenty of people who can use marijuana as medicinal, and it does have medicinal uses. I wasn't one of those. I was one of those who was ruining my entire life. And it was like the train was falling off the tracks. And when I got sober, I said, that's it. I'm not going to do alcohol or coffee or nicotine or anything. And I haven't. And so again, I'm not trying to preach it, and it's not like I'm trying to tell the reader don't do drugs. I'm just saying what my experience was, because for me, as soon as I got clean, all kinds of crazy cosmic stuff started to happen. I started to get synchronicities where I pray to God and I hold my arms out to the sky, and then this shooting star streaks across the sky when I say, I know you can hear me. And I have this experience like this cosmic energy shooting up my spine. I start having crazy synchronicities. I'm seeing repeating digits on the clocks all the time. I start having all these wild dreams. The dreams are talking about ascension, this idea of a quantum leap in human evolution. So by the time I'd found the law of one, I'd been sober for 4 years. I'd been writing my dreams down for 4 years. And I'd been researching UFOs for almost 4 years. And then it's like I walk into the treasure room of the greatest stuff there is to know. And 11 months later, the source contacts me personally. And now I'm actually having a daily interaction with a source that predicts the future as easily as if you would read ahead in a book when you're not on that chapter yet. And, man, now I know what's going to happen in chapter 17 because I read it. I just couldn't wait.
Right.
Well, this was that equivalent in my own life, in important things as well as mundane things. And it's one thing when you have like a deja vu or you have an interesting little synchronicity. Oh, I was just thinking about you, man. There you are. Look at that. It's quite another when you are guided into things that take you and actually make you real money when you were so poor. I mean, I literally had a job in the town I'm staying in now where I worked for $5.77 an hour, 2 cents above minimum wage, taking care of developmentally disabled people, which included diaper changing. Now, how many people would do that for 2 years at 2 cents above minimum wage?
Nobody.
That's what I did.
Yeah, it's
so
tough.
People are out there saying, oh, David's all about money. Come on. I worked that job for 2 years because I wanted to help people, because I actually liked it. And the readings started to tell me, David, we don't want you to do this job anymore because it's messing with your consciousness. Because I had a psychology degree, they put me in the most contentious part of the whole facility, where they isolated all the people with behavior problems. So basically my job was like an umpire. Make sure nobody escapes, make sure nobody screams, and make sure there's no violence. And that's what I did, for $5.77. So I got about $200 of take-home money per week. And so I totally get, people not having very much money, and that's why I'm not selling my stuff at high prices. Guy is $10 a month. I would have totally afforded that even when I was making $200 a week.
Right.
And so I'm not out there price gouging, but my point is, when this intelligence came into contact with me, it guided me expertly. It told me that I was going to succeed to the degree to which I was able to spiritually evolve. The more spiritual evolution I could have, the farther I would go. And they were going to help me. So I didn't get the luxury of being a jerk. If I was a jerk, and by jerk I mean upsetting people and doing things that were self-serving and manipulative, I would hear about it. I would have nightmares. I would cut my finger open with a knife and be bleeding all over my vegetables. I would stub my toe, and then I'd hear the snap, and oh crap, I must have broken a toe. It was like I was seriously getting hammered with karma if I ever walked off the path. And it says in the Law of One that once you learn about all this stuff, you become liable. You become fully liable for your karma. And most people have a gratitude where they don't actually have to experience the full thrust of karma because it would overwhelm them and their life would be so negative they wouldn't make any sense out of it. But once you get past that law of grace and there's no grace extended for you because now you know too much, now you got to be accountable for everything. And so I was trained and I was expertly steered by these various beings, and it ultimately led to all kinds of scientific investigation where I would be guided on a search engine. I'd be looking for one thing, then I find something else. And it was through this telepathic link that I was able to create scientific models that greatly exceed our current level of knowledge, but I explain it in terms that plain spoken English can express. I don't use funny, tautological loops of reasoning that are based on jargon and kind of weasel wording. If you can't explain it to an 8th grader, it's not true. And that's how I've always tried to approach this. So I actually did end up stepping away from talking about being in touch with beings or being in touch with this kind of stuff and said, that's not what's going to win this war. People like me, even though I have this access, I need to be out there arguing the facts. I need to argue scientifically because it's like I'm going to court for the future of humanity. That's where my career started to go roughly by about 2006. 2005, 2006, I was already going that direction. It kind of started by 2004, but really by 05, 06, I had kind of stepped away from talking about beings and channeling and all that stuff and trying to get much more scientific. And as I did, of course, the success level went way up. I got on Ancient Aliens, I got book deals, all this stuff started to happen.
Well, and with that, were you in this connection and in this communication, was it, were they the Sphere Being Alliance? Was it the bird images?
That was the big cosmic punchline, yeah.
Yeah.
That about 10 years after I turned away from it, it comes back to me. But now, because I'm not really talking to them anymore, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. I greatly resented some of the things that I was guided into. I was guided into some initiations that I needed to be ready for what I'm doing now that would have flattened me if I had had those personality distortions, and there was a variety of them, that I needed to really be very jarringly smashed through. And Jimmy, you and I have had personal private conversation. Do not say what it is publicly, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I've had horrible stuff. I mean, if I told the truth, people would be shocked at what I've been through.
Right.
It's like, there's only a few places on Earth where you could sit around with a bunch of people and they'd have stories that sound like mine. It's that bad. But I've gotten through it. I have a much better life now. And I have learned to forgive these beings for what they put me through. But while I was still working through that forgiveness and hadn't really gotten there yet, Corey shows up. He spends 3 months downloading all of his intel to me. We get all of our things put together in a 150-page document, which became the blueprint for Cosmic Disclosure, the show. And then all of a sudden, he gets pulled back up into the space program for the first time, really since the late 1980s, except for little short jobs that he'd gotten sporadically that he didn't even want, where he was just picked up in the 1990s. All of a sudden, he gets brought back into this world, and he becomes an intermediary for these blue avians to interface with the people that had formed an alliance in the space program. And those blue avians, as we now know, they have confirmed through Corey, it took a long time for them to admit it. They were teasing it all along, but they have now admitted they are the authors of the Law of One. They wrote it, that they were the source on the other side of the phone. And so it's interesting that they contacted me, they told me this, they did it by predicting the future in very stunning ways, some of which those prophecies are still very relevant to what's happening right now, and some of which are prophecies that haven't come true yet, and talk about this spontaneous evolution of humanity that we're going through. So it's been a really mystifying and humbling thing to work with Corey, especially because he's having all these really, really, what I would consider to be the most amazingly gratifying, life-changing experiences that I could only wish were happening to me.
Well,
apparently they are happening to me, but I'm not allowed to remember them.
Right.
Very, very bizarre.
Well, I'll tell you something that's funny, because you touched upon this a little bit ago when you were talking about the monoliths. And when it comes to Arthur C. Clarke, who has definitely, when he was alive, he had an inside connection to somewhere, right? It's obvious. But
no question. No question.
In his Rama series, the leader of the ETs on Rama was a bird dude, right? And
how about that?
Yeah, and it is just it's beyond words or description. And anybody, I would recommend it. Go read Rama, and just trip out on that and Arthur C. Clarke's description of who the leader of the ETs were.
They were the Cabal was definitely using Arthur C. Clarke to push out a lot of disclosure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I have
Rama is basically an ancient abandoned space station that we find, and that's what the whole story is based on. And there are plenty of those that they've actually found.
Yes, it's a fascinating series of books. Now, now I'm going to front you off in front of everybody. We've got to go into some overtime because we never discussed Antarctica, so we've got to get to that. But before we do. This was a question that Ronnie McMullen had sent to me when Corey was on the show for Corey, and I wanted to share the same question for you, which is, are there any major ET events expected to occur in the very near future?
I thought the question was going to be, can you feel your underpants?
That's
but then only once it's asked do you actually know the answer.
That's after the break. But yeah, is there anything expected in the near future?
Oh, you betcha. And then I also have a very interesting dichotomy between intel that I'm getting from Pete Peterson, which Corey's people don't seem to think there's any credence to it at all, but yet Pete is very adamant that it's true. And if Pete's version of disclosure happens, and there may be some faction that's working on that the other factions don't know about, that is going to be unfrickin' believable, because that would involve us being introduced to multiple extraterrestrial groups in some kind of major social event. And supposedly, the ETs have already said, and again, this is not stuff that Corey agrees with, so I'm kind of crossing the lines here, but this is intel that I'm getting, so I shouldn't just only say what one person is telling me.
Right.
I should be open about everything that I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that the ETs do not want to talk to quote-unquote real news. They want to talk to people who actually have been doing the homework and studying this. And so they're going to want to talk to people like you, Jimmy, and they're going to want to talk to people like me. And so Pete is already working on trying to get us press passes for when this event takes place.
Interesting. 2017? 2017?
Who knows? I mean, it's supposedly, if the plan that Pete's talking about tells me is true, it probably won't be more than 1 year at the most before this happens. And that's stunning.
Now, is this on the partial disclosure side? Because this sounds a little more dramatic.
Absolutely not. What Pete is describing is full disclosure.
Right.
It's we hear everything. It's we get introduced to all these beings in a major event. They have a place to stay here. They have their own accommodations that allow them to be comfortable and safe. And they come out and they, in a protected way, they introduce themselves to us. And there's multiple groups that apparently have signed on to this. Now, again, I've tried to talk to Corey about this, and he said, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. Okay. It may not be true. And it may be that Pete is being told something that's not true.
Right.
But even if the version that Corey is telling me is true, it's still very exciting, because we got to remember, too, Corey has been given the mushroom treatment, and he acknowledges that. There's starting early this year, and we're doing a 2016 recap. It was only earlier this year that he started to have a lot of information withheld from him, because they're so close now to making some really big moves that we couldn't be told what those moves were, because it would ruin the surprise against the Cabal. And so maybe Pete's scenario is one of them, and Corey just isn't on a need-to-know basis. I don't know. But we are getting really, really interesting stuff about the idea that the Cabal is going to announce advanced ancient ruins, 11, 12,000, maybe even 16,000-year-old ruins that they found under the ice in Antarctica, and that those Antarctic ruins are going to be more advanced technologically than what we have now. And that will, if they do it, that will be a huge distraction that they are hoping, the Cabal is hoping, would be sufficiently distracting to get the public thinking about something completely different and not in going after the Cabal.
Right.
So when they really knew their back was up against the wall, which it is on many, many levels, there's all kinds of precedent now for lawsuits against mega banks.
Right.
Some of the people that were actually the CEOs are now starting to be sued, which means that there's a jurisdictional precedent for them to actually be accountable for what they did instead of just compartmentalizing it as saying, oh, that's corporate debt. It's not my debt. That's all going to start to happen. So they are out of time. Their own members are turning against them in droves. They need something. They need something big.
Is this, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just looking at the clock here. So is there some indication to them that we are able to handle this, which has always been the question, right?
I don't think they want us to handle this. I think they want to create the equivalent of a mass trauma. But if they can do it in a way that's really awesome and sci-fi,
right,
then there will be certain groups that traumatize, and that will be primarily religious fundamentalists and scientists.
Sure.
But most other people will be extremely excited.
I would think so.
But there are going to be groups that get very reactionary and very angry and think that it's all a hoax. And, there may be aspects of it that are hoaxed, because let's look at this. One of my insiders is all over this Antarctica story. This is not Corey, it's somebody else, the guy that actually gave me a lot of the intel in Ascension Mysteries. And he said that they've had 30 years to be poking around in the ice. They could have set this all up. And actually Corey confirmed that. One of the things I'm going to write into Endgame Part 3 that I haven't published yet is that although the Cabal has found all these bodies of giants that are 11, 12 feet tall with elongated skulls, just like we see in giant skeleton records from all over the Earth, which I put out in the Ascension Mysteries video that everybody can watch for free. If you see what they're doing, they're actually removing all those what they're now calling pre-Adamite bodies. The pre-Adamites are being taken out, and what they're leaving behind is the human servants that look like us. So they're going to try to spin this as if Atlantis was habitated by people that look like us, not by people that look like giant extraterrestrials.
Right.
So they're going to try to make this as conventional as possible, but it will be an enormous game changer. And so the MIC SSP guys were telling Corey and me, you guys have got to jump on this. You've got to publicize this immediately, or you will get scooped. And they will do it before you, and then you're going to look like you're riding their coattails.
Yeah, there you go.
And we worked our asses off, and we got it out there, and a couple hours after the article came out is when they started to roll out this Antarctic Atlantis thing.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Mainstream tabloid media.
Pretty crazy timing, and we'll talk about all of that. Stay right there, David. We'll wrap up with Antarctica in just a bit. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, David Wilcock. What a great show it has been. It's not over yet. Everybody just stay right there. Thank you, David. We'll be right back.
And you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my. It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave moisture control units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Our guest tonight, David Wilcock. Tomorrow night, John Burroughs is going to be here. Little Rendlesham Revisited. Wednesday night, Micah Hanks. Thursday night, John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom. But right now, let's get back to Mr. Wilcock. David, a lot of action in Antarctica, man. What is going on? Buzz Aldrin and that whole thing, Carrie. Something's going on down there, and we know it.
Well, I'm going to sketch out some of the basics for you first. And some of this stuff is going to be really obvious to some of your listeners, but for other people, it's going to really hit them by surprise. And this goes back to the Charles Hapgood theory of Earth crustal displacement, the idea that the surface of the Earth could actually have a pole shift and shift on what is the rotational north and south pole of the Earth. So when we get into that, we are posed with a very interesting idea, which is that the island continent of Atlantis that Plato described would fit the description of Antarctica if the Earth's axis was in a different position. And then when we're dealing with the Atlantean flood, which also appears to be the root myth of the flood that appears in the Bible, in Sumerian dialogue where it talks about the saga of Gilgamesh, which the epic story of Noah in the Bible appears to be a very shortened version of the saga of Gilgamesh. You have flood myths in every primordial culture all over the earth, and it appears that this is what it was. So, yes, Atlantis was inundated with water, but also it was then frozen very quickly into ice. Just as an aside, I have some other fresh intel that nobody's ever heard, which I'll give you right now. And that is that, it actually starts out in a really gross way, which is, and I can't remember what the company was, but there was a company that was making pet food, and they tried experiments with animal bodies that had recently been killed and freezing them, and then seeing if the animal could be preserved by basically flash freezing. And what they found was that unless they got it to an extraordinarily cold temperature, it didn't freeze fast enough to avoid the interior being putrefied.
Okay.
So when you look at what's happening with these woolly mammoths and the fact that the Russians that were finding these mammoth and mastodon corpses were actually able to barbecue and roast the meat,
right,
and it was perfectly fine.
That's right.
You're talking about something that's a lot more cold than anything that could happen just by the Earth's poles shifting to the Arctic.
And quickly.
So it appears,
and quickly.
Right. So what actually appears to have happened was that the Earth's atmosphere temporarily was lost in those areas at the poles, and we actually had the vacuum of space itself, which is much, much colder than the Arctic. That space vacuum and space cold temperature was hitting the ground, and that's what actually flash froze these animals, because that's the only thing that works fast enough to get the temperature down that fast,
right,
that they don't putrefy inside. So that's a weird new detail. Anyway, we have now intel that is way more detailed than I have time to get into right now. So again, I encourage everybody, sign up with your email on dwilcock.com, and you'll get the audiobook quality MP3. I post-produced it. I threw all kinds of great audio plugins on it, de-reverbed it, de-echoed it, all that kind of stuff. It sounds amazing, and it's free. So go to dwilcock.com. You can hear me read this. But I want to get into some of the new things that are going to be in Endgame Part 3. Not only did they find ruins down there, and they found these pre-Adamite bodies, but they also have found that a great deal of stuff is underground, and it's very advanced. So in Part 2, we talk about they've already been hauling out the ruins. There's a lot of technological artifacts. Some of the new intel is that they're actually planting a bunch of new ancient technologies that they had stored in warehouses, and they've already set up the cosmic equivalent of the Easter egg hunt. They've already put in muddy areas in which people will dig, and they will appear to find these things uniquely when they go down there. Now, some of my insiders have a real problem with what's being done, because they say, unless this is a really open, civilian-led investigation, not something that's controlled by the cabal, we have no way of gauging the truth of anything. We're already hearing, that they're removing any of the unusual extraterrestrial bodies. And what we do know is that what actually has been found included the fact that these Atlanteans were playing around with genetic modification of organisms. Advanced cloning, species made to order, mixing humans and animals together. And this absolutely blew me away, because Corey is telling me this, having no idea that the Casey readings had extensively discussed that the Atlanteans were doing this, that they were taking various mythological creatures that we see, like the centaur, which is, a man's body with a bull head, or the centaur is the horse with a man's body at the top. You have the bull on a body. There's several versions of this type of thing, the animal-human hybrid. Well, apparently, they actually have found the labs where these clones were being made, and they're still there. They found clones that were in various stages of being grown, this area of Atlantis. One of the cool things we found out, which is in Endgame Part 2, is that the pre-Adamites, these beings with elongated skulls that were 12 feet tall, they could have landed anywhere on Earth they wanted, but they specifically chose what's now Antarctica because there was 1.8 billion year old ruins underneath the surface that they were able to re-inhabit and occupy, and their ships were badly damaged. This whole story is so elegantly told in my book, The Ascension Mysteries. I can't recommend it highly enough, because I not only trace the story that the insiders have told, but I have all the photographs of the evidence of their architecture left behind. So this was a group that had been on a super Earth that was now in the position what we would call the asteroid belt. And I show excellent research that the asteroids were, in fact, the rubble from that planet after it blew up. The oceans turned into comets. That's why comets are watery ice, because they are the frozen oceans of this planet. And all of the debris tracks of those asteroids and comets trace back to a singular point of origin. That's the work of the guy who did the exploded planet hypothesis, Dr. Tom von Flandern, who got some of this published in mainstream academic journals.
Right.
So there's already an academic case that the asteroids were a planet. What people don't realize is, yeah, it was a planet, and it was a very advanced group that had gotten compromised by AI, and they blew themselves up with the Death Stars. And so, again, Star Wars is a story about them. And some of them survived inside the moon. The moon is a very advanced, it's like a used car. Basically, they got parked here once it was junk. But when I say junk, it still has 10,000 layers deep, 10,000 floors worth of habitable space inside. Many, many groups apparently have gone in there and used it. And the reason why this is done is that you want to have something that can be disguised from your enemies. You want to have something that looks normal, so you have the element of surprise. And it was used to transport people and animals and biosphere type of things, plants, bacteria, seawater, whatever, for terraforming. And when it was no longer able to be used, and this the guesstimate from the inside is that it was approximately 68 million years ago that the moon was parked in orbit around the Earth. And that started tides, and that's what allowed, that when the moon was positioned, it was after the dinosaurs had been destroyed, and they deliberately did that. There were certain ETs that apparently deliberately made sure the dinosaurs got wiped out so the planet could be used for human life, not reptilian life. And there apparently were some reptilian species that got a lot more evolved than we're supposed to think they got. That's another thing that's been covered up, is that there was a sort of reptilian humanoid that evolved at the last minute. I don't know how advanced they got. They might have been killed before they had high technology. But, the damage was so catastrophic that it seems like their civilization basically got wiped away, and we don't find anything that looks like it was made from them. So now we have a moon that is a very highly advanced technological artifact, and there are plenty of scientific data points that show this. When we've tried to land space probes on it, it rings like a bell, suggesting it's a hollow metallic shell. There's so many things. The seas on the moon appear to be very thin layers of material because they pucker out in a way that they shouldn't, suggesting that there's some kind of a metallic skin underneath. And those are the areas that look like the big grayish, the darker gray circles.
Right.
And then there's all kinds of weird architecture. There's 12-mile-tall towers, and I got the pictures of them in the book that were photographed by the Russian space probe Zond 3 when it was going around there back in 1965.
Well, then you have the monolith on Phobos, right?
Absolutely.
And
I nailed all those things in the book.
Right.
All that stuff is in the book.
And then you got Buzz going down to Antarctica wearing a Mars T-shirt. Did you see that?
Get your ass to Mars, right? It's like, wait a minute, dude.
Slow down.
And then this all comes out right after John Glenn passes away.
Right.
So there's some kind of weird association between astronauts in space and Antarctica. And why the heck was Senator John Kerry down in Antarctica on Election Day.
Election
you wanted
Day.
to learn about climate change. Give me a frickin' break. You don't
Right.
need to go to Antarctica to study climate change.
Send somebody else. Right.
You go down there because it's Illuminati Disneyland.
Right. The tweet that Buzz was allegedly connected to Buzz. I don't know
it
if
wasn't his, but
right.
It's interesting because what we saw was that tweet coming out, and then right after we published this article, we were told, you got to get this out or you're going to get scooped. The first thing that came out was in Daily Star, and it was a more basic level of disclosure. But then the very next day after we put out the article, the Sun comes out with this thing in which they're making allegations about some kind of video that they're alleging was shot back in 2002 of a city under the ice in Antarctica by a mysterious group that disappeared. But they have the video, but they're not sure if they want to show it. I'm thinking, wait a minute, dude. I'm one of the most visible, if not the most visible person in ufology now, as a result of having 2 hit shows on Gaia and all this. If this thing was out there since 2002, do you think maybe somebody would have shot me an email about it in the last frickin' 14, 15 years?
You think?
I've never heard a word about it. And I'm assuming, Jimmy, you haven't either.
Mm-mm.
That, to me, shows it's a setup.
Right.
There is no film from 2002. They're making it up. And it's part of the narrative. They got to set up a story. They got to tell this like a movie. You know, I was talking with colleagues of mine, Dr. Scott Mandelker in particular is a colleague I'm thinking of. And we were talking on the day of 9/11 on the phone. And, you know, both of us knew about the cabal, so this didn't really surprise us. We knew they were getting ready to do something big. And he said, man, you just couldn't have written the movie any better than this. I mean, it's a terrible tragedy, but it's so scripted. They find the passport at the bottom of the tower. Oh, they know it's the Arabs. Oh, well, that means we got to invade Iraq and Afghanistan because it's got to be them that were responsible. Wait a minute. Those are the places where they make the heroin and the oil. What does this have to do with the towers coming down in New York? The hijackers were Saudi Arabian. That's not Iraq. What? and this is the same deal. It's like they're trying to manicure something. They're trying to tell a story, and they're trying to do it in such a compelling way that they're hoping everybody's going to get roped in. And isn't it interesting that right when they're about to tell this story, what are they doing? They're pruning all of the buds off of the alternative media fruit tree. So we're not going to be able to be heard when they go running around with their new banner.
Bingo.
They're going to tell the story their way, and everybody else is fake news.
Bingo.
That's what they're going to try to do here.
Bingo. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, David. I mean, and see, the thing is, for you and I and this audience, right, the people that we speak to, we get that. We do. But it's playing out just like that. And there isn't really another way to look at it.
Dude, I just want to I want to really give people the 2x4 upside the head right now, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to speak to you, the listener, in case you think that everything I'm saying is a lie and that I'm so full of shit that my eyes are brown even though they're blue, you know.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to talk to you now, you, the listener who thinks I'm full of it. What the heck is going on with the Sun coming out with an article about a city under the ice in Antarctica on the same day, with it 2 hours after we come out with our thing, that we were urged that we had to get out? What the heck is going on that the Sun, another tabloid, comes out the next day with a much more evolved article about the same thing, with this whole pre-planned narrative? Do you really think that we matter enough that they're copying us because they just are hoping to, oh, that's a great story, let's make up a whole bunch of crap and write about it?
Right.
If you don't believe that there's anything going on in the WikiLeaks emails that's going to expose the cabal, you haven't done your homework.
Right.
You can't look at this thing by having the mainstream point their fingers at it and say, oh, that's crap. And because it's such crap, we're not even going to let you read about it. We're just going to delete it off of your Facebook and your Gmail and your YouTube and everything. Wait a minute. That's what people do when they're guilty. If they had nothing to hide, then why the hell don't they let us read about it?
Exactly.
So they know they're screwed. They know they're screwed. And so they're clipping off all the buds from the tree. So they're trying to roll out this partial disclosure narrative, and it's going to be amazingly cool. Imagine if pretty much almost simultaneously we hear about a secret space program that's got craft that can fly around our solar system. We may get introduced to a group like the Tall Whites or the Greys and say there's actually ETs around, but they're only going to give us one or two. And they tell us that we found Atlantis, and it's Antarctica. Check it out. There it is. And we got, here he is, Buzz Aldrin, before he had his heart attack. Here he is. And it was classified, but now we can release it. Here he is touring the ruins. And, oh, my God, look at that. The ceilings are so high. It's like a cathedral inside. Look at all this gold inlay. Look at oh, my God, these sculptures, they look Egyptian, but they also look Sumerian. What are these inscriptions? It's some other writing. It's kind of like Sumerian, but it's like a pre-Sumerian. And, oh, my God, look over here. Here's a sarcophagus. And, oh, my God, we found bodies. And, oh, my God, here's a technology. And this thing is glowing. And there's this orb that's hovering over the ground. And, I mean, people are going to lose their minds. They're going to be so excited about this thing.
Before I let you go, let me thank you first, and I can't wait to hang out with you once again in February. But I wanted to give me your review of the movie Arrival. What did you think of that?
Well, I haven't actually seen it yet, but I did actually read enough about it that I got some spoilers about the ending and the fact that it seems to kind of have a disappointing. It kind of goes a little boilerplate in the third act, you know.
I didn't. No, you need to go see it. You ignore that stuff.
I've heard that the depiction of human to extraterrestrial contact, the degree of how personal it is, how inspiring it is, how amazing it is unparalleled in any other film, and that's why I do really want to see it.
Yeah, you need to peep it out. We'll talk about it again when you do, but cool. No, it's pretty interesting, David. You're going to love it.
Yeah, that's very high on my list, and at some point when I'm out here in New York, I'll probably go check it out.
Now, this is what I'm not going to spoil anything, but after Rita and I walked out, it was like, that is, if there was ever a drip, right, out of Hollywood, really? Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to, I'll just
probably the Alliance. The Alliance has been making a lot of movies that are anti-Cabal, and that includes some of the biggest Marvel films like Iron Man 3, Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, the Avengers 2 in particular. There's a lot of films. The second Independence Day, which everybody said, oh, that's crap. And yeah, it was lame in some ways, but Independence Day Part 2 had a lot of Alliance stuff in it.
Man, I dug it. I dug Part 2. I was cool with it.
Yeah,
I was cool with it. All right.
It had a sphere being in it. I mean, it was like, wow, there it is.
Yep. Okay. Well, just really quick, is Divine Cosmos the best source? Or is it dwilcock.com? What should everybody do?
I have two sites now for two different purposes. Divine Cosmos is where Endgame 3 is incoming, hopefully sometime this week. I am on vacation. Please bear that in mind. It is the holidays, but I might try to get this thing written up while I'm on vacation with my family. So you got to check divinecosmos.com. You can get on you can give me a Facebook like or a Twitter like, and Twitter may be more reliable at this point when I write an update in Facebook, but you can find out what I've done. And then go to dwilcock.com, and that's where right now, for nothing more than an email address, we have two amazing free gifts. We have an entire book of 1950s channeling that talks about the Ascension. That's raw material that I'm going to be using in later books. It's amazing stuff. And we have the MP3 of the audio for Endgame Part 2, which is as good as an audio book. And there's going to be more stuff coming out there that I'll be putting out on that for free. So it's a really great resource. And again, this is how you get to stay in touch with me. We can bypass the censorship. You put your email in there, and when I write something, you get emails. You'll get emails when I make those updates. And so I've divided myself a little bit, but I think there's a reason why that's good. And again, if you want to go and check out Gaia, please do it through divinecosmos.com, the links that are on that page, because otherwise, if you become a subscriber, I don't get any credit for it.
Right.
So go to my website, divinecosmos.com first, and then check out the book. I'm sorry, check out the show. The reason why I said the book is I'm thinking about that too. We are within days of actually having the Amazon page for Awakening in the Dream, my new book for August of next year, ready to pre-order. And pre-orders are very, very important because if you think you're going to read it, if you do the pre-order, then all of that counts towards our actual rank when the book comes out. So the last book was 11 in the World, and that made it very blatantly obvious when New York Times tried to stuff it under the rug and not put us on the list.
That's what I'm talking about.
It shows who's on the good side here because that book exposes the cabal like never before, and they were not willing to allow it to be on the New York Times bestseller list because it is so incredibly damning to their agenda. It's a full disclosure in a book. It's like everything they don't want us to know, everything they wanted to wait 100 years to tell us, it's already in one place in that book.
Well, listen, have a great, safe Christmas and holiday season. Give my best to the family and thank them from us for allowing you during your vacation to come on this show. It's so important that we did this, and thank you so much,
Absolutely.
David. And we'll see
Thank
you.
you, Jimmy. I really appreciate it, buddy.
You're the best, man, and I'll see you when you get back in town.
Awesome.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. All right, David Wilcock. Thank you so much. We're right at the end of the show. Great conversation. Thank you, David, for going so long into overtime with us. And I just want to, thank David. Look, he appreciates this show and this audience so much. And to do this during the holiday season, he is on vacation, and we need to thank him. So everybody, just go on Twitter at David_Wilcock and thank him for hanging out with us tonight. Absolutely great conversation. And with that, you can tell, man, I am talked out. What a great show. Thank you, David Wilcock. Show is produced by executive producer Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you, David Wilcock. DivineCosmos.com, dwilcock.com. Links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. Cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Tomorrow night, right here, John Burroughs, Rendlesham Revisited. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tappy.